podium as well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Your Monday night starts right here with us at RaceSpotTV, and the second half of a season that has been fraught with ifs and buts and maybes and almighty performances week on week on week. Now head to the United States of America and will hold itself in North America for the second half of this season. This one of those tracks which has become a modern classic in recent years, and a track that does say that everything can be a little bit bigger here in Texas. Your World GT Championship, as presented by World Sim Racing, is now into position. My name's Jake Sperry, Nathan Richards along with me today. And Nathan, good to have you jump in the commentary box for an hour and 45 minutes of running here on round 11 of the championship. It is going to be a very important round after what was a very closed-in bullring of a track at St. Pete 2 weeks ago.
Certainly. Good evening, Jake. Great to be back here in the commentary box for the World GT Championship, and I can't wait for the action here tonight at COTA. One of my favourite tracks. I think a little bit of an underrated track in the world of motorsport, so I'm sure these GT3 cars are going to give us a right show here as we head into one of our next endurance rounds.
Yeah, you can see the calendar here. There's just one more Enduro after Circuit of the Americas. That will be at the Miami Autodrome in what is the 18th of May. But you've got some really expansive circuits, but a lot of tough circuits to come up, like Sonoma and Mosport, which land hand in hand. You've got, of course, that Enduro at Miami. Then the streets of Detroit Belle Isle will be there for round 11 on a technical, and finishing with the feature at Watkins Glen, a powerhouse for overtaking. That is going to be a treat. But how do they walk into championship? Well, Anders Mira's big spin has cost him the championship lead and ground by a lot. 4 wins to 0. He's 76 points adrift now of James Boumet up on top. Leander Gabrielsen currently just a point clear in third over Alexander Davidson, and Aiden Young, who is there in 5th position. Lucas Prada for Adidas Racing by WSR is 6th, with Jack Sedgwick 7th and Arthur Thurtle in 8th. With his consistency, Dennis Grabowski finds himself 9th and out of the championship for the rest of the season. is Ross McFarlane. He's 10th, just ahead of Nikolai Pulisen, then, who finds himself in that 11th place. In Pro-Am, there were penalty points given to William Guthrie last time out at St. Pete, but critically, he still holds a commanding 68-point lead over Michael Gray at Full Tilt Motorsport, with Tommy Vidal then in third. He's only a point clear of Aidan Carter in fourth place. Taylor Lane finds himself a distant fifth, with Ben Altria sixth, and Ben Cullen just 1 point behind him in the Effect Simulations machine. Josh Boot for Empire is 8th, with Ivan Turnison 9th, and Owen Neve rounding out 10 in the Pro-Ams. In the Am standings, Janis Scholten actually has less wins this season than Tristan Engelstad, but the Quad Dash racing car has found a lot more retirements, and so that's why it's the biggest gap in the championships so far, with 101 points the difference. Eric Hartmann is third, with Seaman Andre Livingston in fourth. You then got Jaco von der Ligt in fifth position. Dean Tim sixth, ahead by 1 over Ben Gregory there for Boosted Motorsports. Then it's Gianni Teher in 8th, with Jacques Eva 9th. Jesse Payne Wilkins rounding out the top 10 in the championship. Grid, though, is all ready to be stacked up, and James Boumet is in control of this with a 2:06 flat. Lucas Prada and Alexander Davidson will be there in the mix. Anders Mira will go from 4th position, with Nikolai Pulisen in 5th, and Ethan Critchley, who was so quick last time out, couldn't change tyres. He's 6th out there, as it's a great qualifying for the RAA team. Ivan Turnison, the best Pro-Am, in 7th, with Michael F. Docker 8th, Aidan Young 9th, and Jack Sedgwick rounding out your top 10. Leander Gabrielson will go from 11th, with Tommy Vidal, Tommy Fast, there in 12th position. William Guthrie's never too far away, in 13th. He lines up with David Baker and Axel Slijepcevic there in 15th for Altitude Frame Esports. Andrew Archer there, AA, in 16th, with Dennis Grabowski 17th, and Aidan Carter lining this one up 1 second off the pace in 18th. Ben Altria and Phil Samways make up the top 20, with Adam Watson and Michael Gray 21st and 22nd. Arthur Thurtle in 23rd, and a late entry to the second half of the season for Fraser Smith, who has been allowed to enter the second half. He'll go from 24th. With Seaman Andre Livingston and Paddy Faulkner, they are 25th and 26th. Seaman Andre Livingston, your leading Am out there here today, as you've got Janis Scholten there in 27th, and Jacques Eva 28th. Benjamin Gregory and John Lloyd make up your top 30, with only 37 here today, but 33 setting a time, meaning Jaco von der Ligt, Ben Cullen and Howard Hassan are the last set times. No time set then for Taylor Lane, Tristan Engelstad, Colin Sansom and Josh Boot, who will go by their aerating to the back of the field. 40 degrees on the track temperature, so in the dog walking to egg frying ratio out there, Nathan, it's egg frying time.
Oh, it certainly is, and this is going to make for a great race. I mean, you know, all three championships have still got a lot to fight for, so all the drivers have got to get their elbows out early and also make some early moves, because yes, a lot of the track is quite wide, but once you're stuck in a bit of a train of, you know, 3 or 4 or more drivers, it's so hard to make a move. So realistically, if you're one of those guys at the top who might be a little bit further back in qualifying than usual, you've got to get those early moves done when it's such a long race.
You absolutely do. Worth noting, no Harrison Crowther today to serve his qualifying ban. He did have a race suspension from St. Petersburg, so whenever he chooses to come back, he will have a qualifying ban to serve. Joe Newman also missing today. It's his second race suspension after the actions of Adelaide caused a massive stir among the paddock, and on top of that, a season's ban was handed out to Luca Tingor, so we will not see him between now and the end of this season. He was done for intentional wrecking, and so he'll be only able to come back when the next season will take its control. But James Boumet will be very happy with his qualifying. His teammate not a million miles away back there in 5th place, but he'll be worried about Anders Mira there in 4th, and he's got Prada and Davidson, and Prada could be a driver to really keep note of, as well will be the 97 of Ethan Critchley in 6th position, who will know that he was so close to finding a victory at St. Petersburg. He just couldn't hold on and was shuffled down the field so late on, but he has shown that he is a stage hunter in the second half of this season. He's not going for the championship, he's way too far back but he can be a spanner in the works to help the WSR, Adidas, or maybe even RAA go and get some points back if they would want to. It's an hour and 45 on the clock. They will have to make at least 2 pit stops here today to get themselves home and dry. So watch out for how they look to play strategy and the pace in control with James Boumet in his AMG Mercedes with Prada alongside. Good launch then off the start. We're underway here at this wonderful, wonderful circuit of the Americas. It's Mira who finds himself the wrong side of the drum as they head up Big Red into turn number 1. Who's going to be brave on the brakes? They're all starting to find it, and Mira gets half turned by Pedersen, who loses his front clip, but he gets it back. But critically, Mira in the middle, and Critchley's turn.
Oh, what a start that was. It was always going to happen, wasn't it? Up at turn 1, a few drivers going off, and a few of them as well going off into the S is not a good start for many drivers in the field. And on this opening lap now, it's just about getting the car through nicely, just surviving, as that's one of the other cars off, one of the Mercedes cars in the barriers. And it was always going to be a tricky start, especially when you've got a mixture of your Pro-Ams and your AMs trying to fight against some of those in the Pro Class. You've got a big disparity of pace all throughout that field. As we head down to turn 10, a clean start though for many of those near the front.
Many but not all, and it was Aidan Young instead of Ethan Critchley. My apologies there. It was Aidan Carter who was around and has lost the rear wing. Good lunge there down the inside and the back. That looks like potentially William Guthrie getting himself involved at the moment, with Ben Altria as well then in play. So a lot to go forward, but here comes Prada to the inside here at the prime place to get it done. Jams it down on the brakes, overcooks it slightly into the corner, but we'll get a chance here, will James Boumet, to fight this one back through the arena now. And noting here through 13, 14, now looking at 15 and 16 coming up. These are critical corners, big defensive line by Prada. Then to hold the inside, he's not going to let a sniff or of a whisper of a move come on through in the opening lap, through the long triple right of 16, 17, 18, over towards turn 19, out on track. This left-hander off camber, so easy to get this one incorrect as they dance along the tightrope that is presented by one line only. And finally, the Andretti, turn 20 on this track, and away they go. One lap score complete, and everybody knowing that they are in focus mode now and get themselves set and settled for what will be some strong running.
Certainly, and of course Lucas Prada, 2 podiums already this season, but no win yet, so he'll want to hold on to this as much as he possibly can. But of course James Boumet, championship leader, he wants it even more in terms of taking that win here tonight. And then you've got so many of the drivers further behind who are all on, you know, many of them have had a win, most of them there have had a podium as well. So everybody here has got a lot of experience in being at the front, so they all want to be there. So this is going to be a great 1 hour and 40-ish minutes of racing, as Tommy Vidal's now up into the top 11, so he's the leader of the Pro-Am class. And looking further down, Simon Andre Livingston is the leader of the Am class. So those two up in the front, as they always are. And of course, we do know how difficult sometimes being in that lower division can be. Sometimes even harder than being in the top of the Pro class.
Yeah, there was the contact through the middle. It looked there like one of the Pro-Ams going around. So that's Ivan Turnison, who got painted into a corner with his own teammate and the like. Oh, curve there for what looked like either Grabowski or Slijepcevic there, who was alongside Aidan Carter. He got shuffled out then and was on the wrong side of it, and that's what put him down. He was 18th on the grid. I wonder if it was even Adam Watson there who would have got into the side of him, the 291. So that could have been a big moment maker. And speaking of moment makers, it's a case now of looking down at where everybody is going to be shifting about, finding that prowess, finding that progress. We go here to the mid-pack, seeing here the look at Axel Slijepcevic here, who is looking forward, sees his teammate Dennis Grabowski, looks behind, William Guthrie, the Pro-Am, who, believe it or not, I believe has pro pace.
Definitely. I'm sure I saw William Guthrie a lot of the times last season, and he was always up there with those in the Pro class. So, yes, I'm sure he's definitely one we should be keeping an eye on. And also Ben Altria, who's P4 at the moment in the Pro-Am class, and he was right up at the top of the Am class last season as well. So it just shows when, you know, a driver goes from Am to Pro-Am or Pro-Am to Pro, that a lot of the time it doesn't really take that much settling in to do. A lot of them are already on that pace by the time they get that promotion. And you can see there, you know, Ben Altria, a good example of a driver settling in well in a higher class. As here's Michael Gray heading up to turn 1, potentially looking to make a move on Phil Samways as they head their way up. And of course, sometimes as well, that first corner here, it's a bit of a blind crest. First of all, if somebody makes a mistake there, you're not going to see it until you arrive at the scene. And second of all, it's actually quite easy to lose a rear. So turn 1 is such a tricky corner to get right. But of course, it's the first corner. It's the one you've got to get right.
It is absolutely the most important part out of it. If you don't get turn 1 right, well, you can kiss goodbye to the rest of the lap. Michael Gray, someone who needs to be up there and scoring a bit more, with William Guthrie in 15th position right now. He's down in 21st. He's got 6 spots to start making up, to start making inroads in the Pro-Am Championship. They battle in front of them, though, as there's a great crossover from Andy Archer in the Lamborghini. Gets a wonderful launch compared to Grabowski, just cuts across the nose along the long back stretch, which goes up and down and bounces about as they go through. Looks like John Lloyd also dropping down the order there, but here comes Grabowski back. He stayed well within the slipstream range. He cuts it in very deep, blocks the pass up and says, you know what, I might be quite clever, I'll get my teammate through on the outside. Don't say they don't think in GT style racing, because they do out there. Slijepcevic to the inside, yoink, I'll take one, and guess what? Straight down the inside also goes William Guthrie. He's not going to see that one as anything less than an invitation to go through.
Indeed, a really great start, and I think the great thing is, even though I said it's quite hard to make moves sometimes, the good thing is it is quite a wide track, so when you have drivers that are trying to fight through the field and they're a little bit further down, you get some really good battling, as Jack Seaver there ahead of Elvin Tonenson. They're still having a battle for 26th place further down the field as we make our way out of the final corner and back down towards turn 1. But of course, Lucas Pride is still holding that lead nicely, and one thing we see a lot, especially if you're up in maybe the top 4 or top 5, drivers aren't always as keen on making a really early move. They're quite happy to sit where they are and let the race pan out, as this is William Guthrie on the back of Axel Slijepcevic, who's looking quick, but in some corners Guthrie's right on the back of him. So I think, yeah, Slijepcevic has got to really think about what William Guthrie behind could be thinking about doing, because yes, he might be a Pro-Am, but he's also one that wants to get on the move and wants to try and finish as high as possible in this race. But for most drivers, a really clean start. Of course, we had quite a tricky lap 1, but that's always going to happen with Kota. Since then, it's been really good. So I think for the next half hour or so, I'd hope many drivers stay out of the barriers and stay out of contact and have some really good racing, because that's what we're here to see around Kota.
We say that, we've got one non-starter in Josh Boot today, but everyone else has taken to it. Big lunge down the inside by Ben Altria. He's got his teammate. William Guthrie's around. Altria's gone and got his teammate in the door, and everybody scatters to 6s and 7s. Rule 1 of sim racing, do not hit your teammate.
Well, the commentator's curse comes back again. I did not expect that to happen at all to William Guthrie, especially by his own teammate. You can just see way too late in the brakes there, and unfortunately Guthrie goes round. Somehow didn't get collected by anybody there, so I think he'll be quite lucky with that. But oh, what a shame for William Guthrie, who was all over the back of Slijepcevic, and it could have easily been a chance for him to make a couple of moves, but now he's got to make them all back once again. What a shame for Guthrie, but it's an hour and 36 minutes, so he's got a lot of time to work his way back into the race. If it was a 45-minute race, you'd be thinking it might be game over already, but still a lot of work here that Guthrie can do. He's on the back now of Paddy Falconer. We'll see if he can get that move.
That puts him back to 21st position, and critically, he has now Michael Gray in front of him now. So he's on the other end of looking to try and score and gain those places to gain the points back. And Falconer here has every right to defend his positions, because he's a Pro-Am as well, looking out there in the battlegrounds. Just behind them are the leading AMs right now, with Seaman Andre Livingston there in the 23, Janus Schultein in the 31, and then just behind the pair of them, Ivan Turnison making his way back through with Ben Gregory and Jacques Seaver 3rd and 4th in class. So they're all in the picture right now and saying, look, we showcase each other in terms of our pace, our ability, and our opportunities to go at it. On board with the AM Championship leader for Fry Guys Motorsports, Janus Schultein has had a lot of study, so he hasn't had as much practice as he'd want to over the course of the weeks of this season. But what he has done with his time has been get yourself consistent finishes. He's been really good at that.
Certainly, and of course he's P2 at the moment in his class, but he's got a good 101 point lead in the championship, so he's one of those drivers that can on the odd occasion afford to drop back to P2 or P3, as that was Phil Samways going around in the Lamborghini, and that could have ended a lot worse than it did. A lot of drivers easily could have hit the back of him, so I'd say that Samways gets away quite lucky, as he's now down to P30, as that was John Lloyd getting involved in something down at turn 10 as well, a little bit similar to what we saw with William Guthrie, but not good at all for John Lloyd, who in position now drops down to 33rd as Brent Gregory makes a move ahead of Jacques Seaver further ahead, and this is the battle for 27th place as they head their way into turn 11. A great move there by Jacques Seaver to go back ahead, but drivers behind are really keen on making the move.
Not yet. Here's Ben Cullen in the middle of this. He wants to try and find a way through as a Pro-Am against the Am, and Gregory not giving up too much. They fight for the lead of Am just in front as well. Actually, that is Turnison going through just in front. So there are changes aplenty out there at the moment. So here's a look back then to this as Gregory's got the run and is going to use that power of the Mustang to pull away the more nimble AMG Mercedes there of Ben Cullen, just waiting on the back and hoping to find a way to jump on forward in the bright blue Effect Simulations number 90 and not quite finding it. It's also worth noting we've got our first retirement of the race. It is going to be Taylor Lane as, leave yourself a tightrope. Arthur Thurtle, who's so good, his defence at Jerez, legendary. Eva's going to get the roof, but Taylor Lane was the first retiree who had himself a big hit of the anti-cut curbs here through the S's.
Indeed, and once again, Jacques Seaver looking for a move here on the back of Ben Gregory, but of course you've got Ben Cullen and Tristan Engelstad behind as well. They're all looking to get involved, and of course Tristan's been so good so far this season. Of course, I think he's been on the podium the last 5 races in a row. He's really been up there. He's got 4 wins this season, so he's one of the last drivers that all these want behind him as they make their way up through turn 10 and down towards the hairpin-esque turn 11. And of course Gregory doing a great job of defending here from Ava and those behind, but they're all keen on making the move, so I'd imagine soon it will get dicey once again. As you can see already, Ben Gregory doesn't go for a defensive line, but he does move a little bit more off the racing line than normal, as this is what happened here to Taylor Lane, jumping over the curbs in the Aston Martin. The car bombed out completely, and that was, I think, just avoiding the barriers, but I think called it quits there.
Yeah, so may have done something underneath the car that we haven't seen, or maybe understanding I'm not going to get anything from this circuit. Engelstad to the inside with a bit of door to get by Ben Cullen. Am passing Pro-Am there in the BMW. Great stuff on that pass, and Engelstad comes in not taking a qualifying, but noting that he is looking to make places. He's looking to get points back, and he knows that the only way he's going to get points is if he continually runs up the order. He's been great when he's been on form, and right now he's showing, even though he couldn't get a time done in qualifying, he's on good form. He's making good passes.
He certainly is, and of course the 4 cars ahead of him are all in his clash. You've got Eva, Gregory, Shelton and Livingston, so he's got a lot of moves to make, and a lot of these are really crucial for him in his championship. Yes, he's P2 at the moment, yes, he's 100 points back, but there's still many rounds to go in this championship, and still a big opportunity for him to move his way further ahead, as there was some right battling going on in the midfield there. A couple of moves being made. I think Aidan Young going ahead of Van Altria and jumping into P16, and there was also a fight as well. I think Subchevic and Grabowski were involved in something up near the bottom parts of the top 15, as here is Young making his way through on the back of Adam Watson, I believe this will be, as they make their way through towards the end of the opening sector. And then you look a little bit further back as well, and this was the move battle here with Dennis Grabowski looking to try and get ahead of David Baker.
Part of the WSR veterans team is David Baker. He was a lightning fast touring car driver back in the Kia Optima in the day, racing the likes of Ash Sutton, for example, who was out there, the likes of Stelian Chepelevsky, who would have been out there, Alexander Smolensky. Those drivers, he would have found themselves in that level of fielder caliber to go with. Slijepcevic, though, is looking at this here with Denis Grabowski in front, going, how do we pick this off? Because they're all behind the driver in 10th right now, Tommy Vidal, Tommy Fast, who's leading Pro-Am in this field in 10th. And so they're a little bit bottled up, and they're now going to try and understand, What do we need to do in these early stages to make the move? As, whoa, that's going to be in late. And into the door goes Dennis Grabowski. A late move on David Baker. The really rigid, I would say, body structure of that Mustang against that lighter, narrower Aston Martin, showing its difference there. He took the hit and had no concern afterwards.
No, certainly not. And of course, turn 15, because of it being quite a weird off-cambered left-hander, and you've got to go away from the apex and back onto it. It is a really easy corner just to misjudge your braking zone and go straight on into the car ahead. And we've seen that happen already a few times in this race, as here is Slijepcevic looking to maybe an open move here on Grabowski. Knows he's a little bit quicker. And of course, I think Grabowski knows he's a little bit quicker as well than David Baker, who's starting to lose time now to Tommy Vidal, who now just sits inside the top 10. So of course these two are wanting to get past Baker and hopefully have a fight with Tommy Vidal, because his gap is also starting to increase as well to Jack Sedgwick. So if these two want to try and fight with those in the higher half of the top 10, they've got to get past David Baker as quick as they possibly can. And great onboard here of Slijepcevic, and just shows how difficult this COTA circuit is, especially the first sector. Yes, we watch it in Formula 1 cars and it looks quite easy. They've got a lot of downforce to work with. In these cars, it's the opposite, and you've got to force the car through and hope you don't get any understeer, and the opposite, you get no oversteer.
Big lunge to the inside, and is he going to get a door again on that left-hand side? If he keeps on knocking, it will be a case of I'll huff and I'll puff and I will blow your house down out there for David Baker. But unfortunately, fortunately for him, his car is made of bricks, it looks like by the moment. But the side draft comes into play for Grabowski, who's better in a straight line, and he's going to command the apex. And again, Slijepcevic trying to lean on in and make it two for the price of one. Baker across to cover the line and says, nope, no chance of that one happening. I'll only let you have the one. So Grabowski gets his pass through. He moves up into 11th place, and they're already over 13 seconds behind the leading 7. Yes, you said that right. Leading 7 in this field.
Yeah, the gaps are really starting to increase here. And of course, looking further down as well, Tristan Engelstad got the move done ahead of Jacques Seaver, so he's up now to P27, and that'll put him P4 in the AM class. So some nice moves for him early on in this one, as he was in this battle still raging on in towards the final corner of turn 20. Of course, it's going to be Slijepcevic looking to make the move ahead of David Baker, who's got a really good run out of the final corner. Up to turn 1 we go, but of course you've got to make a lunge in towards his first braking zone, and it's normally quite a scary one as well, because you never see what's at the top of that hill. A move to the inside for Slijepcevic, it goes really deep, and the Mustang trying to get the car turned in, gets it turned in nicely, but because of the better run on the entrance of the corner, David Baker has a better exit.
Well, there's the up and under coming along for the S's, and you're going to have to keep finding and filing their modelled on Maggots and Beckett's here. This section from Silverstone, this turns 3, 4, 5. Of course, this one of the first, one of the most important ones is there's Jacques Seaver's issue out there. The back just completely rotates through 19 and has to find reverse to get off the circuit to re-emerge onto circuit safely, as we go back to the 66th machine of Fraser Smith on his first run of the season. He's doing a very good job for himself, actually, all things said and told. He's there in what is 23rd position right now, as he's just seen the place for Turnison go. And speaking of places, Arthur Thurtle and William Guthrie really in a scrap right now, as Turnison now looking to eye up Paddy Falconer.
Indeed, and Turnison's made some really good moves so far in this race. He's a little bit further down than what he is now, so we'll see what he can do in the Lamborghini to move forward. Of course, looking further ahead here as they head their way into the brakes. William Guthrie looking to make the move on Arthur Thurtle down in towards the braking zone of turn 12, a very tight braking zone and a really good run through. And even further behind, Michael Gray might be looking for the opportunity in that Mercedes to the outside, and what a move that could be. But of course, he's got to hold it all the way through 12 through to 15. He's got a little bit wide, he's lost the rear slightly. Unless he can get a really good run to the inside, it seems that Thurtle has just about held that on, but he did not see Michael Gray go for that opportunity, and he's got to be careful of that, because these Pro-Am drivers have got a lot more to fight for in terms of trying to fight with drivers in their own class, whereas Thurtle's kind of in the middle of nowhere in his pro class.
Well, the door was left really open by Arthur Thurtle, and Michael Gray, who, remember, has now just seen the likes then of William Guthrie through on him, he realizes, I've got to stay with him. We are both part of Full Tilt Motorsport, but the Full Tilt V brand for William Guthrie is really showing that it's got legs and it is going to start trying to run for it. So you got Falconer there, you got Turnerson, you got Fraser Smith and Seaman Andre Livingston all there. Here comes Turnerson to the inside. Remember, his qualifying pace was electric out there. He qualified his car 7th in that Lamborghini. He should be making quick progress of this, and Paddy Falconer has nothing on the inside of turn 2 for him.
No, and a great move there for Turnerson, and they can look to go ahead on Michael Gray, and so far looks super quick in that Lamborghini here around Cota. Of course, he's only around 3 or 4 tenths back from Michael Gray, so you'd imagine that opportunity will come quite shortly as Paddy Falconer now. It's going to be closed in by Fraser Smith, of course, one of the new drivers joining us here this week, so we'll see what he can do. Currently 23rd in the Pro class, but of course it's your first race. You're going to take a bit of time to settle into the championship because it's not an easy one, to say the least, as all those guys there closing up into turn 11. Turnerson looking to close down on Gray, and Gray got a really good run here on the back of Arthur Thurtle. And then, of course, ahead are the 2 teammates of Guthrie and Altry, who, of course, got into some little contact earlier on.
Yeah, so this is going to be where they start setting it up and going, well, once more, we'll go to turn 11. Say this is the place where we can go and get passes. Answer to that is no. You're not going to get that there. And now through 12, 13, 14, 15, you'll be eyeing up even more out there for it. Arthur Thurtle then seeing Michael Gray wanting to get through. The gap opening up a little bit here for Guthrie and Altria, the 2 teammates who can work through. Engelstad also making a move then in the background as he looks to try and get by Ben Gregory. He's got Ben Cullen. Look how busy this is right now. Cullen and Samways here, 2 Pro-Ams and 2 AMs going at it at the moment. It's the AMs who are keeping themselves pretty much hot to trot as they work through the triple right.
Well, I'm not sure what happened to Gregory and Engelstad, but they both lost time heavily to the cars ahead of them, and now we've got 2 right behind them, so they must have got into something because Engelstad did make the move and then dropped back behind Gregory. So not sure what happened to those 2, but they have got Cullen and Samways all over the back of them, and of course that's not what they want to be dealing with at all when they're trying to battle in their own train.
Look at Tristan Engelstad, 2 straight corners. We've seen that BMW get twitchy on the power, and here comes the lunge up the inside. This might be an I'm going to get it on the exit move here as Engelstad uses gravity to advantage to try and sweep around the outside, and back steps out. Bye-bye. How do you hold that? What a save by Ben Cullen, going full drift spec.
That was scary for Cullen, very scary. He's got Van der Lith behind, but that could have easily ended up in the barriers or ended up hitting somebody else. I don't know how he saved that, but some great work. As Steve Tavick has got the move done further ahead of Baker.
Yeah, we've got to talk about that move as well and go to replay of it. Cullen here, just getting the curb on the inside, full lock, trying to save it. Well done, Ben, on that. But Slijepcevic almost turned over the nose by David Baker on the lunge down the inside, as now Andy Archer's going to get by both of them after they had that bit of biffo between them. So ultimately there, those 2 of Slijepcevic and Baker deciding to battle amongst themselves. They've let one atomic car just fly on through, and Andy Archer right now having a very good day at the office.
Archer won't be too disappointed with that at all, will he? As these 2 came together into turn 11, there was a slight bit of contact at that moment. Off the track when both of them, they had a bit of a slide, they rejoined, and so Archer got through. It looked like for a moment Andy Archer might have got turned around there by one of the cars. So you see the replay here. Archer went to carry on past, and then of course they both had to rejoin. Archer's there separating the 2, then he gets the move done on both of them, and a great opportunity taken there by Archer. And it's one of those races, it's a long race, and these are the sort of opportunities you've got to be taken when they're given to you, and Archer's done a great job there of moving his way up into P12, and of course now having to hold off from Dennis Grabowski is going to be a difficult task, but he's got himself there in the first place.
Benjamin Gregory here, it's through the transfer. You think it's so easy and it's flat, and he gets in. You can see the wheels just lit up immediately to try and get out of it, as John Lloyd done exactly the same thing through the same part. Yeah, you've got that small dip. He almost completely ran up the back there of Benjamin Gregory. So John Lloyd finding out that the exercise bike's not there. Altria into the back of Thurtle. That caused a big chain reaction. Then the likes of Fraser Smith just jumping out of the way in the altitude frame esports Mr. Hedge car there, just getting the jump away to Altria having a spin. Suddenly here, as they sit at 25 minutes, they're all fighting themselves with a silly 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just all kind of broke loose here on track at Kota. I expected chaos, but I didn't expect this many mistakes, but it just shows how difficult this track is, especially when you've got a group of 40-yard drivers who are pushing to their limits, you know, trying to make the positions, and for many of them, trying to fight for that, you know, that championship. Yes, there's 3 different championships here, and 2 of them are below 100 points with like 7 rounds to go. So, you know, they've got to fight so hard. And of course, those up in the pro class, you know, those in the top 7, top 8, they're quite happy to sit where they are. They don't need to battle just yet in this one. They've still got another hour before they need to start getting their elbows out. But those further back who need to be making the positions, your mixtures, your pros, your pro-ams, and also your leaders of your AM class who are there as well, looking to make moves, just make things quite dicey. So we head our way through here. An hour and 19 minutes to go, and further ahead, that's Gabrielson and Sedgwick having a battle for 8th.
Well, Gabrielson's blinking a lot at the moment, and he'll be very concerned about how much he is right now as he looks to work along the straight. So he's obviously got to do something about his connection and hope that it comes back. Otherwise, he might be dinged with the connection flag out there as he looks to work along at this moment. So big concerns for Leander Gabrielson at this stage of the race. But for the moment, we focus with Purlison here in 5th, Mira in 6th, Evdoka there on the back in 7th. They're all working hard at this moment in time to get through. And I'd just like to point out that Jack Sedgwick is the sort of driver who you'd expect to be a quality caliber driver in the likes of the IMSA Esports Global Championship. He is 9th in a field like this one. So I think it goes to show you the quality that there is in this field. And I think that drivers like Anders Mira and teams like RAA could be, if they really wanted to, a team that could represent Norway on the world stage and not just here in the World GT Championship.
Certainly. Well, all those in the top 9, bar Leander Gabrielson, have got a podium this season, which just shows how good they all are. And you got lots of Doka, Sedgwick, who've had podiums and now stuck in 7th and 9th and are 4 seconds off the lead. So it just shows that the level that some of these drivers are at and how much practice needs to go in to be right up at the top. Of course, Mira here on the back of Nikolai Pedersen, who's had, I think, a win this season. He's had one earlier on, so he's also a top driver, and he's struggling to hold on to P5 here in this race. And it just shows how, you know, that how much of a difference the cars make. Every track you go to, one car's going to be stronger than the other, and it really makes a difference when you're at the top of your pace like these are. Of course, Lucas Prada could be looking to try and take his first win this season. Of course, a couple of podiums in his pocket so far, but yet to get to that victory. So that could be on for him today. But of course, he's got Boomy, he's got Davidson, Critchley, Pedersen behind. 4 very, very quick drivers, so it's not going to be easy for him as Jacco van der Lith makes a move ahead of Howard Hassan for 28.
Yep, so that one down the order a little bit there between them. So a change where the South African jumps up, gains 1, and will be happy for it. Up into Big Red, turn number 1, named after one of the founders of this circuit who put a lot of money into building this world-class facility here in Texas. We are about 50 clicks away from Austin, the main city, and as well as that, not too far away from College Station, which is the home of Texas A&M University, the Aggies, who love to have a good game of college ball out there at the moment. Adam Watson dropping down a place then, as that is going to be Aiden Young getting the pass on the exit of turn 1. Aiden, after that lap 1 spin, he's been slowly working through the group, and I think he'll be very happy out there as we take the focus to him this point in time. I think he's happy he'll soon be with Baker and Slijepcevic and the likes of Andy Archer. He's really had to dig in deep. He has in this race, the driver who sits currently 5th in the championship.
Certainly, it just shows the level, doesn't it? You know, every year this championship gets better and better. I'm sure I was here for many races last season. It just seems like this year it's gone up another notch, and it's lovely to see so many drivers who are fighting with Davidson, Boemi, and of course, you know, those were kind of your top 2 last season, and now everybody's getting involved with them and really giving them a fight. So that's what we love to see here in the World GT Championship as we head our way back down towards turn 12 once more. Aidan Carter making moves further back, of course, got involved in something earlier on in the race, and he's now just trying to recover for earlier issues. So they all make their way through into all 16, 17 and 18. The triple right-hander here with Anders Mira. It's got Michael Evdoka behind and, of course, Pedersen ahead. This is a great battle here for 5th, 6th and 7th. And you can imagine maybe Michael Evdoka's looking at maybe getting the move on here, because really closing in lap after lap on the back of Mira. But, of course, it's not really worth oversending a move, is it, to you know, potentially lose you both time in the race?
No, and so this is what you see at the higher levels of sim racing, is that it's not about how you make the move, it's not about when you make the move, it's about why you make the move. Because you can go and make a move right now, but why are you doing it? Why are you jumping up the order? Is it going to be more beneficial just to stay in line and ask Pedersen to go and push the pace up a bit? The answer to that, I think, for the moment for Mira and Evdoka is yes. They're still within a second and a half of Ethan Critchley in 4th position. So I think they're happy with the pace and going on for it. Now, if you were to make this move 5 minutes from now, 8 minutes from now, you'd ask, why is there the move? The move would be surely here, Nathan. First round of pit stops, I want track position.
Of course, if they've got to make 2, they're going to be in shortly. And of course, they've got to get it done on the right lap. And we know sometimes drivers go for some really bold strategies and might go out really long on the first one, or, you know, might go really short. That's the type of things that may work and may not work. Whereas a lot of drivers in the top here, they just got to go with what the normal optimal is. And if they know what lap most people roughly go in, they're not going to try and cheat it and go early or late. They'll just go that optimal lap, because they're all going to do a very similar thing. I'd imagine the top 8, top 9, depending, of course, on car fuel, a lot of them will go in at around the same point. As here's Michael Gray looking to close down a move on the back of Arthur Thurtle, who's only just started to drop back here. He's not really gone any further forward as Thurtle. Not been the best start for him, of course, this season. Took a win back in Jerez in round 2, and now he's struggling to hold on to 19th, and that's just not what we like to see here for Thurtle. And now you can see Michael Gray really on the attack. But as I was saying there, those in the top 8, top 9 will be thinking about pitting and probably pick very similar to each other.
Well, you got to remember, it was a reverse grid that put Arthur Thurtle in control at Jerez, and he had to do so much defending against Jack Sedgwick to go and pick up that victory. It was the immortal race from him back in Jerez, and so I think he's living off the glory of that, knowing that his overall pace isn't his truest strength out there. Back up to your leading 2, who have got about a second here over Alexander Davidson and Ethan Critchley, the 2 WSR cars that are there in 3rd and 4th. One, of course, is the Adidas car of the 55 of Alexander Davidson, and then Ethan Critchley then representing WSR Esports then in that second group. But chase very much there, and I wonder how much James Boumet is actually being able to fuel save behind Lucas Prada. I think that's going to be a very telling moment out there as Slijepcevic through now on Andy Archer.
Certainly, nice move there from Slijepcevic to get back on the rear of Denis Grabowski, but of course that battle that was once like a couple of tenths is now 3 seconds, so it's really fell apart for Slijepcevic in terms of trying to push forward with Grabowski and catch up onto the back of Vidal. Is a little bit deep there for James Boumet, and of course that allows Davidson and Critchley to close in ever so slightly as they make their way back down towards turn 12, and Jack Seaver is in the pit lane. So we'll see, of course, when everybody else starts to come in, but that's our first real pit stop in this one. Jack Seaver in from around 30th position, of course, part of the AM class. Let's see what other drivers will do to react in and around his position.
Well, being the first one in has its benefits and has its banes out there, as he pits with about an hour 11 in. So he's got himself about, what, just over half an hour through this race. He'll be looking at 2 long stops then to get himself through. 23.1 seconds the stop time, as he will get that to a full tank of fuel and say, look, we'll run aggressive now over to the end of the race. But for this time being, 1, 2, 3 and 4, you expect them to run until the tank goes dry and then everybody jump in at the same time. But it is a question of who will pull over hard to the left. Nobody makes that call then at this moment in time. I still think we're about 5 minutes away from it out there as they go, because if you want to talk about what the car has and what the car can do out there overall, they are limited to 55% of a fuel tank. Pro-Am leader, though, is going to be in the pits. Tommy Vidal makes the call.
So now a couple of drivers are starting to think about that pit stop. So, of course, I don't think those in the top 9 need to react to Vidal's call, because I don't think he's quite on the pace with them. But of course, as the laps go on, more and more will come into the pits of Slipčević and Angie Archer. You have Turnison as well. A lot of drivers now heading into the pit lane. So this is probably like the peak lap. This lap, next lap, and maybe the lap after, you'll see most drivers go in, and of course then get ready to go on for another stint of racing. But of course, the likes of Mira and Pedersen and Docker, this is a good opportunity to maybe make a move on somebody in the pit lane. Maybe go a lap earlier, a lap later, and use some sort of pit stop strategy to get ahead, because it's going to be so hard to actually make the move on track. You're kind of forced doing it off track, because Janis Scholten as well for the AM class in 2, of course, our championship leader, so he's gone in, and for himself, we'll hope that earlier pit stop works.
Yeah, a hive of activity as we watch Scholten here leaving pit lane, as Falconer found himself with a bit of side-by-side. For those wondering as well who are out there, yes, this is a league out there that you can race on iRacing, and you can have the opportunity to jump in and join it. But the key is you've got the drivers at the very top end of this championship you would call sim racing or esports professionals out there. Some of the very best in the world of sim racing right now, doing everything they can in a race field that is very, very hard fought for at the moment. I'd still argue you've got 7 within 5 seconds, so this is still a top group, but Pedersen down 2 seconds on Ethan Critchley here as they will work to turn 19 and then turn 20. And will there be any more divers? And in comes 1, 2, 3, 4. Get them all in. 7 in for the stop here in this first stop of the race.
So they're all in together. At least the top 5, top 6, 7th are in. What about Gabrielson? Will he join in the party in the pit lane? But as I said, they're all going to do a very similar pit stop strategy. They've kind of put their fuel to maximum, will go in, and then you'd imagine it's probably a very similar pit stop time as well, because you don't want to spend too much time on the pits to end up losing track position. So the top 10 are all in here in this race. I think you might even see those below, and yet the likes of David Baker and Adam Watts are in as well.
Not Aidan Young.
I think he was Aidan Young. Yeah, he'll now take the net lead of the race. So
even with that slide and spin, he's going to be able to get out and say, look, I can go longer than everyone else. Beating Boume out the pits is Lucas Prada. So he had himself a good pit stop and said, look, you're not going to beat me on that. Boume, then Critchley, then Davidson. So Alexander Davidson has dropped a place. That's the only change throughout your top 7 out there as they make that run down the hill. Now they're going to have to deal with the colder tyres and lap traffic, because they've got Colin Sansom there, the privateer in the Porsche, to get by.
Indeed. So we'll see how that works out for Aidan Young, who's up in and around the top 11, top 12. Has gone a lap later. We'll see if this works, as Slipčević there going ahead of Andrew Archer, jumps up into 13th. So a nice move from him. He's 5 seconds back from Tommy Vidal, and also Vidal's dropped behind the back of Grabowski as well. So eventually Denis Grabowski did make that move ahead of Tommy Vidal, and we'll go up another place higher, as we do see Engelstad as well, and a couple of the Zinners. Anders Meyer gets the move done ahead of Nikolai Pedersen and moves up into P6.
Oh, they got held up by the traffic coming up through turn 9, and so that or turn 7, 8, 9, that was a huge moment as far as that one sits. Pedersen knew that is the pick that was needed for Anders Mira, that puts him up to 6th on the road, 5th net, but it's going to be Pedersen looking straight back here for the big overtaking zone at 12. If he wants to get this done, he looks on the inside. Mira gives him all the space in the world and says, look, I'm not really going to fight that one. There's not much I can do. So that one, pretty telling in terms of where the passes all come about and are made. And so that one, a change out there. And I know Michael Gray taking a tow back to the pits with damage as he came together with Fraser Smith.
And that's not good at all, is it, for Michael Gray, who's in a big fight, especially in this championship. He's 68 points back from William Guthrie. This is really not a good result at all for Michael Gray. Of course, Vidal and Carter and might be able to move their way up the championship, not overtake Michael Gray yet, but they'll really get onto the back of him in the championship, as there's Aidan Young in the pit lane. Of course, was in the lead, but will easily drop back now and probably to around where he was earlier on. So we'll see how this goes for Aidan Young.
Young then going a little bit longer. He'll be looking to go slightly lighter in the final stop in that Corvette, which may be just sipping the fuel a little bit better than some of the other drivers out there. He's the only driver in the field in a Corvette Z06. So that will be a huge telling margin that maybe that car is playing fuel better. He will come up the hill. He'll see Slijepcevic side by side with him. And Slijepcevic should work around the outside as we've got this move going as well. Into turn one, he'll get out just ahead of Andy Archer will Aidan Young. But Turnison with Adam Watson here. Very good karter is Adam Watson, but ultimately that McLaren, nothing there for the Lamborghini.
No, but drivers are just looking to make some moves early on in the stint, and we'll see it off the curb, and that's not the ideal racing line through there for Young, and will lose a lot of time due to that, but that was a scary moment, and it's one of those, like what we saw with Taylor Lane, can end up with you in the barriers. It
can end up, you know, torpedoing the car underneath and damaging some very important pipe work or the underflooring. You've got to be very careful about the anti-cut curves. And now William Guthrie senses blood and says, look, I'm going to want this one. I'm going to eye this up. And ultimately, William Guthrie says, no, I'm going to have to wait for the best place in the world to get the passes done, which is through turn number 12. So that could be the all-important moment where you start sensing, right, how on earth am I going to start setting this up? Speaking of setting up, these two had a big scrap 2 weeks ago as Guthrie is going to get the look to the inside. Ethan Critchley here eyeing up James Boumé.
It's got to be a big battle, and of course, if it goes the way that Lucas Prado wants, he'll be able to run away with this. So it depends how eager Ethan Critchley is in terms of getting ahead of James Boumé, or if he's happy just to sit behind for now, because he knows if they battle, that will allow Lucas Prado to run away and control his race. And you know, of course, in effect, probably end up fighting for the win a little bit easier, as Arthur Thurtle drops back a couple of places behind Fogner and Livingston, and also behind Shelton as well. So not going ideal at all for Arthur Thurtle. I'm not sure if he's got any issues, but he was really dropping back time there. Lost a good 4 or 5 seconds for a moment. So not going to plan for him, and that's what happened. So, dear me, too many drivers doing that at that exact same place, and Thurtle, his race is just going from bad to worse, isn't it?
It looks like you just go over the gear and you're putting rotation in the steering wheel as Turnison now, another one, as was said by DJ Khaled, gets down the inside and takes the place of David Baker. Arthur Thurtle, we're seeing a lot of drivers, especially in the AMs and the Pro-Ams, who are finding you're going through the gears, and it's just as they switch on the gears that they engage that next gear, that the car just disengages, re-engages, and then suddenly, because they've got so much rotation in the car going through at turn 14, the car just wants to snap around and throw them in the barriers.
Yeah, and a lot of drivers are looking not to end up in the barriers. We've not seen many drivers actually end their race there, or at least end up being towed back to the pit lane. Most of them get away scot-free.
Colin Sansom just saw it there, back a shot. He was there, turned around and over the top of the crest. So another driver who has just caught the barriers, and look, he's lost it, trying to get the power down as much as he can and bump into the Armco. He's got a long, fortunate thing for him there is, in a Porsche, engine's in the back.
Yeah, I've drove the Porsche a couple of times on our racing, mainly at Nürburgring, and it is really, really scary on the rear. Very easy to lose a car when applying the throttle, at least from what I saw and have done. So, not surprised that many of the cars having issues are the Porsches out on track. Yeah, it's not an easy car to drive, it's not the most stable, but it's also one of the quickest. It's a little bit like the Mercedes, it's under brake and it's not very good for beginners, but for those who can master it, you know, that's why it's in the BOP, in the meta, because it is one of the best cars. So it's a lot of the time with GT3s, it's about either having your preference of driving safe but not being quite up to pace, or going risky, having a car that's at the top of the meta, really having an unstable setup but knowing it's quick. And those at the top, lots of Prada and Boumé and, you know, Critchley, Davidson, who can drive in that ultimate pace or race, they know they can have an unstable setup because they know how to drive the car, and they've mastered it, as Aidan Carter makes a move further back to move up into 24.
Yeah, he's recovering through on Tristan Engelstad for position, who currently sits third in the AM class at the moment, directly behind Janis Schultain and your leader, Seaman Andre Livingston at this stage. A focus here with Critchley in third position, Boumé in second, your leader, Lucas Prada, but 1 second back, Alexander Davidson at risk of being dropped from the train.
Of course, yes, we know it's not like DRS and you don't have to be within a second, but you want a good 8 7 or 8 tenths really to get that power of the slipstream, and of course Davidson, he's losing that. He's already got over a second of a gap now. That gap's 1.2 between himself and Ethan Critchley as they head their way down towards turn 12 again, and here's Michael Evdocker looking for a move.
Evdocker, this is to try and get by Anders Mira, who has been dropped now by Nikolai Perlison, who is sat in that 5th position. So really another race for Anders Mira where he will happily take the points, he will happily take the consistency, but he's got to try and do what he can, because he doesn't want to open the door for Davidson, for example, for Prada to get back into the championship, who are both ahead. James Boumet is starting to walk away with things at the moment because his level is a lot higher at the moment than Anders Mira. Mira hasn't had a win. The way he's been picking up the results is that James Boumet's latent natural pace has been great. The one place where James Boumet's really struggled this season, Nathan, is been in race 2s where he's been back in the pack and trying to fight a way forward.
Well, he's not got to deal with that here, which is perfect for him. He could just run his race for the next hour, sit behind Lucas Prada and have a really good run. And because Prada's got a lot of pace in his car, along with James Boumet, it's not like he's got to catch up to Prada and work his way through that way. He's quite happy to sit where he's, run at maximum pace and probably not gain that much on Prada, but he won't lose much. You know, 2 guys at the top of their pace, and Critchley as well is there, also on top pace, so they can run a really nice race now. Probably around maybe 15-20 minutes to go, that's when they'll have their battles, or maybe at the start of the next pit stop phase. But for now, Boumet and, you know, be happy just to sit where he is, run his race, and hope he can stay in that P2 spot. But of course, eventually he's going to have to start thinking about Critchley and possibly Alexander Davidson behind. Of course, like Sir Pedersen and Mira and Evdocker a little bit out of that train for the top 4, so you'd imagine without mistakes the top 4 have probably confirmed themselves the top 4. It just depends in what order.
Yeah, and that's why this final 58.5 minutes I think are going to be really, really critical as far as this race goes, because this is not going to be the race where they're throwing haymakers. This is a slow burner towards the end of the race. This is about who can do what. And now the instant point limit hit for Ben Altria. This is one of those tracks as well that we have to note out there. It's very, very easy to pick up points here, especially someone like Altria, who's already got into the side of his teammate today. He'll be turning around at it and going, well, I am having an absolutely torrid time.
Of course, and for many drivers it's either gone really well or really, really bad, as is William Guthrie, one of those that it started off poorly after he got turned around by his teammate, but he's back up to where he was before. He was in around 15th, 16th, he got dropped back to around 22nd, and he's now back up into P16, so it's not going too bad for William Guthrie at the moment. Of course, started P13, so we've still got a little bit of time to gain there, but I think we'll be quite happy with how the recent 45-ish minutes has gone in this race here around Kota. Of course, behind him is now David Baker, who's really started to drop back. I think when we saw him earlier on, he was on the cusp of the top 10. We had Slipchavik and Grabowski right behind him, and they were eager to get a move. I think since we saw that, we knew that eventually Baker was going to drop back, and now he's fell to potentially Adam Watson, who's just over a second behind, but then, crucially for Baker, has a nice 9-second buffer to Fraser Smith, so can happily have a bit of nice run in there, knowing that the car behind isn't going to be there right on his bumper within 2 or 3 laps. So I suppose that'll be a good thing for Baker, knowing he's not going to have to worry about the car behind, just about what he can do in terms of cars making mistakes ahead, because I don't think he's on pace for the top 16. It's just about hoping that others ahead have issues, or maybe miscalculate the pit stop, they go a little bit too forward in the box, and that's where drivers like him will be there to take the opportunity and take the advantage.
Ben Altria, by the way, has rage quitted the race by driving it headfirst into the pit entry Tech Pro barrier there, so he is done and dusted. And now I want to talk about how open this AM Championship has now become, because William Guthrie sees no Michael Gray, who's second, no Ben Altria, who's sixth, no Taylor Lane, who's fifth. So it's legitimately now, as we watch Aiden Young behind, and here comes a big move. That's late, that's late. Andrew Archer there with mirrors full of Ivan Turnison. They're jumping and pushing away through. Oh, that could have been so much worse than it was. Lamborghini on Lamborghini, and ultimately it's Turnison who jumps the march and gets the pass done. But what I was going to say here in terms of Pro-Am, William Guthrie's only got to worry about Tommy Vidal, who's ahead of him, and the likes of Aiden Carter, who fought him for it last season.
Indeed, it's not going too bad for Guthrie now, considering what it was earlier, because I'm sure that there's about 4 or 5 cars behind him in the championship, ahead of him. Now there's only 1, so he's quite happy with where he is at the moment, I'd imagine. William Guthrie, as we see Michael Docker again on the back of Anders Mira, battle for 6th and 7th here on track. Of course, ahead of them is Nikolai Pedersen, but those two are happy just sitting where they are behind the back of Nikolai, because they know they're not on the top pace of the top 4, so might as well just sit here and try and close in a P5 here, or 6th or 7th, because they've got a good 9-second gap ahead of Leander Gabrielsen, so they're safe on that front of holding on to 7th at least. So I suppose for a lot of the drivers it's about maximising what points they can have at the moment. If you're 5 seconds back from 4th, is it realistic? Probably not. So you're looking at top 5 max. Your P7, you're what, 9 seconds ahead of 8th. You're probably going to be between 5th and 7th. So you've got to just take those points and move on to the next round. There's no point trying to force something that isn't going to be there, because that's when mistakes come, and that's when you end up dropping out of the points you could have earned. So for these 3 here, it'll be a lonely race, but you'd imagine there's not much more they can do to move forward now and just stick together and work well. I mean, they're all in a decent point in the championship. I think, Avdoka is in there a little bit further down. You've got Mira, who's up in 2nd, so it's a key race for him, and then Pedersen, who's down as well in 11th place. So there's only one of them really that's got much of a fight here in terms of championship.
They do have the drop rounds to consider. They're allowed 2 drop rounds over the course of this season, but the critical thing about those drop rounds, Nathan, is you're not allowed to drop the last one.
No, and that's sometimes the most crucial one, and the one that tends to go wrong. So you've got to kind of be good on that race, and then I suppose you can have 2 faults in the season, which I suppose is good. 2 races where you're not quite there, and I suppose that's a good thing as well. Just say you're, Mira, who's up in P2. You just say you have a race next week, and you're down in 18th or something, or even further down, and you think, oh, I can't be bothered. You just know that at the end you can say, right, scrap that one off. We go again next time. You've not got to worry about, oh, I've got that P18 looming over me for the rest of the season. It's gone. You can forget about it. So that's a good thing about having a couple of drop brains. It does allow you to make a mistake, which isn't always the best. I'd prefer them to go all rounds, and if you finish near the back, it's your own fault. But I think having those drop brains helps drivers be a little bit more confident if things go wrong.
Yeah, confidence is something you build over the course of racing, and that's what you're trying to do. You're putting lap after lap on the board together, driving within the means, getting the confidence to go maybe 1 kilometre an hour quicker into a corner, maybe find yourself a bit closer to have a sniff for an overtake. It's those sorts of factors that you're trying to get, those mini wins over the course of a run that put you over the top and say, look, I don't think there's anything too wrong with the way that we're going about business here. And these 3, look, they are incredibly quick drivers out there. This is the sort of circuit, though, where if you make a mistake, you will see gaps just open and elongate and make life very, very tough for those in and around to make it happen. Big wide line being taken there by Pedersen. He needs to drive off the exit. In fact, he's done just enough, I think, compared to that BMW to say, I don't think I'm going to be attacked into turn 12. So down the hill here through this small lisking towards the right and over towards this left-hander, 120 degrees on the brakes. It feels like so much more when you go through it. But, again, nowhere near close enough for Anders Mira, the Norwegian, to go and get by the Dane.
Indeed, and you can tell as well he's not too bothered. If he wanted to make the move, he'd make it. He's had so many laps, so many minutes to make it, but he's happy where he is. So I think that's just, I suppose, also makes Pedersen's life a bit easier, because he knows that Mira's not just going to dive on him out of nowhere. He knows at the moment he's quite happy sitting where he's behind him. So, just drive together and just don't lose time, because, yeah, they're in a bit of no man's land at the moment. They're not going to go higher, they're not going to go lower. So just sit where you are and move your way forward. And I suppose that can go for some of those up at the top as well, even though they're battling for high positions 1, 2, 3 and 4. At the moment, they know they're not really going to have any pressure from those behind, so they can just drive together, run their own pace, and just stick together until the pit stops start to come around. But I have noticed Alexander Davidson is really starting to drop back now from Critchley, Boumet and Prada, so maybe Davidson's not got the pace to keep up with the top 3. but maybe it's the fact that Ethan Critchley's looking to get a move on James Bowman, because that gap's come down to 3 or 4 tenths on multiple occasions.
Yeah, that gap sits at roughly 2 seconds at the moment for Alexander Davidson, somewhere between 1.5 seconds to 2. Ethan Critchley has been closer, but this might even be where you're setting up, and this is why we say, you know, an enduro isn't always fireworks, because the best strategy out there often is, where is the most risk-averse pass you can find on the race circuit out there, Nathan? The answer is you do it on strategy in pit lane.
Yeah, and of course that's what we saw from Critchley. Was behind Davidson the whole stint, got in the pit lane, somehow gained time, I'd imagine, if it was a short pit stop or whatever, but he got out ahead of Davidson and now sits in the top 3, and instead of being stuck behind Davidson and being 3 seconds back, he's got ahead and he's now 1 second behind the leader. So this is a really big opportunity. That's Arthur Thurtle and Aidan Carter having a battle for 23rd. Thurtle's got the move done and Carter looking to go back up the inside as they head their way through the S's, but of course Thurtle just dropping back more and more.
Look at the front front left. He's got that caved in on the front, and that is going to be costing him the time. That's why Janis Schulte has started to walk away. This is a case of a pure sim sandwich on Fry Guy bread.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard to defend here from Carter, because it's not just the fact that he's got a car behind him, he's got a very quick car as well. Carter's a quick driver, has got a really good car as well, so it's going to be a difficult one here for Thurtle, and one of those afternoons he really just hopes ends as quickly as it possibly can, because once Carter's got through, you've got Tristan Engelstad to deal with, who is also a very quick driver who's been on really good form recently.
Yeah, and Engelstad, who of course is trying to do his best to catch up to this group. He needs to get by Janis Schulte, and that would be for second, and you don't get much closer. The splitter was starting to look underneath the back of that Porsche of Arthur Thurtle. Here's what's going to make Arthur really tough to get by, is that Porsche is the slipperiest thing known to humankind on the straights.
Yes, it's... Oh, that was close as they head their way into turn 15. Yeah, the Porsche, it's not as easy a car to drive, and the same goes with the Merc. Two very difficult cars battling together here on track. At least I can't drive them very well, and other people have told me the same. Don't worry, they are difficult to drive. There's Carter now all over the back of Thurtle. It's just got to get the move done. Has got to go for a lunge at some point here, otherwise they're going to be stuck behind and just lose key time to the car ahead of Janis Schulte.
Yeah, they're trying to catch the Belgian here. Aidan Carter, -6, was down at the back of the field with a damaged rear wing on the opening lap of the race. He's been able to gather himself back up together. Spoiler is there, now on the outside, looking to just try and tiptoe back down the hill and just say, look, this is going to be the home alone. Can I sneak away through and go and get myself a place? For the moment, it isn't, and I would say you're trying to find every chance of going to make this move. You're working through the S's, which argue against you with those anti-cut curves. It's a big stagger as you go through 6 here, into 7 and 8. Oh, trouble behind. Big trouble behind. It's Engelstad.
Oh, dear me. The driver on form in the AM class has ended it in the barriers. Let's have a look what happened here to Engelstad. Lost the car on the curb. A little bit similar to what we saw from one of the drivers in the first couple of laps, and that car is definitely being towed back to the pit lane. What a shame for Tristan Engelstad, who in the championship was really starting to make his way forward. The chance for battling for the lead is probably quite low, but he was right there in terms of just being in P2 and just seeing what can happen over a season. But now, you'd imagine this race is, yeah, it's just gone poor for him, and we'll see if he's out completely or if he'll try and rejoin.
Big move then, down to the inside for Aidan Carter as he tries to get this one stood up, and Arthur has to let him have it there. Good look through on the inside. Arthur Thurtle can only allow Aidan Carter through, but again, this has opened the door up in AM. It now opens up with no Eric Hartmann here today for Simon Andre Livingston to now start walking up to second in the championship, and he's leading the AM field at the moment, so he'll be very pleased with the work that he's got. And I wonder here how quick of a move Aidan Carter will get on Janis Schulte, and whether Schulte can quote-unquote attach the proverbial tow rope to try and get back up to Simon Andre Livingston.
Well, at the moment, Carter seems really quick in that Mercedes, so you'd imagine it won't be the hardest move in the world to get past Janis Schulte. And of course, first of all, they're in 2 different classes, so that normally gives you an indicator that one's quicker than the other, but also from just what we see in general from Carter. Really quick driver, of course. Got involved in something earlier on as Andrew Archer's been black flagged, so not good at all for car 555.
No, remember, he had the massive hit with Ivan Turnerson out there, and you're looking around and saying, well, what do we have to deal with in order to be sat in the level we're at? Well, if you're over 20 incident points, you are going to be starting to pick it up. He's on 22, is Andy Archer, and that is why he finds himself with a black flag penalty. He will have to come down to the pit and serve that drive-through, which will cost him his second place, or which is now third place, sorry, in the Pro-Am Championship race here today. So William Guthrie is going to be back on the podium.
Indeed, and we'll be very, very relieved at that as well. Well, William Guthrie, after a race that didn't quite go to plan, he's starting to get a little bit better, and he's now up in the top 15 in this race, and is not that far away from Turnerson either. He's only about 4 seconds away there, so that gap is definitely doable to come down, as this is William Guthrie with Harge behind and David Baker and Adam Watson in the background. But yeah, it's been a bit of an up and down race for Guthrie so far. There's still 45 minutes to go. There's still a lot that can go well and a lot that can go wrong, but at the moment it's not going too bad for Mr. Guthrie out on track. Of course, up at the front once more, that gap between Bomey and Critchley is coming down again. It's only around 3 or 4 tenths there between those two, and Davidson is sitting there consistent but isn't really gaining in anymore, and you'd imagine that he'll be quite disappointed with that because he's got some decent pace in his Lamborghini. And then looking further behind, Pedersen, Mira and Evdoka have lost like half a second over the past 10 minutes. They're very, very consistent on where they are, and they're not really losing to the leaders that much.
No, but you consider they were 4 seconds behind when they came in for the first stop, and they're now 7.5 to 8 seconds behind the leaders. I think they know their race is run. It's for 5th, it's for 6th, and it's for 7th. And it's a case of where are they going to go and gain what they have. Evdoka +1 for the day so far, looking to get by Anders Mira, who is -2 so far for the day, running along this back stretch. But Pedersen's draft is just going to temper any sort of hope of making a move. Big wide line. If you didn't quite understand what car Michael Evdoka's running on the inside, that big blue badge along the gear shift there that's telling you what gear he's in on the dash, that should be your best indicator.
Certainly, as here is Evdoka on the back of Mira as they make their way through turn 15 and then through towards 16, 17 and 18. We'll see what Evdoka can do here. And just seems to gain quite a bit through that section. They gained a good 10th or 2 on the back of Mira, but then there'll be sections of the track where the BMW is quicker, so it just chops and changes all lap long for these two. As I say that though, this time around it does seem that Evdoka's caught right up to the back of Mira and is a little bit closer than what we normally see, so we'll have a look, see if anything happens from this here as they head their way back up towards turn 1. But Mira's really close now to the back. Sorry, Evdoka all the way back to the close of Mira. We'll see if he can make a move possibly into turn 1. He's a little bit too far back though, I think.
Yeah, he's going to be a little bit shy and knows he's got a bit more work to do as Janus Schultain drops the place to Arthur Thurtle now. So another change that has now fallen itself in the field. But this is what you got to worry about here, Anders Mira. If you're focusing too much on Evdoka behind, you might lose Nikolai Pedersen just in front.
Yeah, definitely, and they've got to be careful of that because that gap's up to 7 tenths now, so even 8 tenths, so yeah, they don't want to be losing Nikolai Pedersen behind. Of course, for him, it's fine, he can run away and claim a P5 without any battling, but these two need that car to just be pulling them along and stopping them from losing time too. The leaders up at the top, so they're going to be really, really focused now, just keeping on the back of the Mercedes and just working together, and that's why you probably haven't seen Evdoka go for a move. He goes for a move, they lose maybe a second, and then that's it. That battle for P5's done and dusted, so you might as well keep your options open until, probably around 15-20 minutes ago, that's when you'll be looking to make the moves. But for now, you don't really gain much from making it or losing it. You're just going to be in the same train just a few metres up the road as they head their way down towards turn number 12. And it does seem that things have started to calm down a little bit now on track. There's not many moves happening. There's a couple of cars that are close to each other, but nobody really thinking about making a move. So you'd imagine now drivers are getting ready and set for the final stint or the final pit stop.
Well, you say that. James Boumet was actually pushing Lucas Prada through turn 15, so there are going to be some huge moments still left as they are nearing that pit stop window, and I think this is a wake-up call we're seeing as we focus on Anders Mira, the other driver fighting for the championship after at least the halfway stage. Now, in terms of laps they were able to do in the first stint, it was a case of 18 being found by the likes of Ethan Critchley. It's Boumet for the race lead, lunges up the inside of Lucas Prada, looking to get it done. Prada holds it on the outside, and so the embers, suddenly someone's poked a stick. Boumet is going to try and do something. Critchley, oh, he almost turns him over the nose there. There was almost no room there. Critchley had to move across for fear of spinning the championship leader and reigning champ.
That was close there. Critchley just about tapping the rear of the Mercedes, and no room at the in at all for Critchley to go up into P2, and just has to just settle back now for a good half a lap, and maybe if it all goes battling once again, he can get involved once more, but he can't really be forcing too much from third because he's just got to wait to see what those two in second and first do themselves as they head onto the brakes into turn 11. Deep for Prada, and a good opportunity for Boumet to get a good run out of the corner. Does get a good run, so does Ethan Critchley. Let's see if there's any move on the cards down towards turn 12, and I'd say probably no need for Boumet to make the move. The only reason he would is because Critchley's right there on him as well, and he'll be looking to make it if Boumet doesn't.
Well, James Boumet, I think, is just slowly waking up to the fact he wants to make overtakes. I think he knows he's in a situation where he'd say he's on territory, doesn't want to go, and now he focuses to the outside to try and get the run. Leaves the door ajar for Critchley now to go side by side, or maybe even get the switch back. Critchley thought about it and had to abandon it early through the corner as he'll lose a bit of ground, get a big wide line though, and keep the ground on the exit. And all of this battling, worth noting, will be bringing back Alexander Davidson. He's only now a second and a half off the back. He's closed on this lap alone 1.1 seconds.
You'd imagine here Lucas Prada's doing a lot of fuel saving because he's really slow in the corners compared to James Boumet and those behind. Of course, it's also starting to slowly bring Pedersen and those behind in as well. They were about 8 seconds back. They're now just over 7. Yes, I don't think they'll get involved that much, but it's still really bringing down the pace of the leaders. As we head up to turn 1, Critchley looking for the dummy, decides to back off, but he's really keen as well on getting ahead of James Boumet. If he can get a good exit, he might be able to try and force an overtake.
Trying around the outside, now going to get a switchback opportunity. Where is he going to find the moment here to get in? He's so nimble in that Lamborghini off the exit of 1 and in through 2. It's those long sweeping, full throttle, medium to high speed corners where that Lamborghini is showing itself, but the medium to slower corners are much more in the wheelhouse of the AMG Mercedes. So that, I think, tells you all you need to know about where the advantages or disadvantages are, because I think that Lamborghini can't hit the curbs as heavy because of the lower profile of it. Defense then from Boumet.
Certainly, as they head their way onto the brakes into turn 11. Critchley though, oh, it has a half spin, just about collects the car, but that could have gone really, really wrong there for Ethan Critchley, but look who it's brought back in the battle. Alexander Davidson's right there on the back of the Lamborghini.
Pressure valve, and you've just released it for the one driver in this field that you just have to pressure and harry and harass out there. The number 1, James Boumet. Ethan Critchley, oh, you just felt that he wanted that move so much, and he just was a little too eager on Mr. Right Foot.
Indeed, as we can see Jacques Seaver in again, so was first to pit last time, first to pit this time, so you'd imagine 2 or 3 laps and all of our leaders are in, and that could be why we're seeing Lucas Prada starting to fuel save a little bit more. We're coming to the end of the stint, and maybe he wants to go a little bit longer, or maybe he's not got enough fuel to go the distance the others are, so he has to fuel save to make it the same as everybody else. That'll be a key thing to keep an eye on, because he was slow for a couple of laps, but he's slowly started to pick up the pace again as Aidan Young goes ahead of Tommy Vidal and puts himself up into the top 12 again.
Yeah, it's a really nice drive here from Aidan Young. Ivan Turnison then, there's going to be no argument between the teammates. They change over, so Turnison now leads Pro-Am class with no fight between them. But Boumet keeping himself steady here, and I think they know that they are 1 or 2 laps now off of where their pit window is. We're on lap 33. I'm not going to be shocked if they go to lap 34 out there to make that stop, or even to lap 35 if the fuel numbers allow it for those who need. So this is going to be one where I think, how are you minding your P's and Q's out there? This one turning into a real tactical battle here, rather than what we've seen at previous rounds, really aggressive. This is the onboard of Critchley. Look at the wheel work he has to do. Full opposite lock, and just completely opens back up the steering again to say, look, I'm in play.
He's got away very lightly there. That could have gone a lot more wrong for Critchley. If it was many others, they would have gone around and done a full 360 or a 180, but he somehow kept it in a straight line, and of course only lost about, what, 1.2 seconds? He didn't lose that much at all compared to what others can lose doing that, as Paddy Faulkner's in the pit lane as well, and James Boumet catching up quickly to the back of Lucas Prada, but no way through here unless I think he was looking for a dive to the inside, but backed out. But he thought about it, he really did, but he thought, no, we'll make the better of it and just stay behind for now, because we're not that far away from making our final pit stop of the race with 35 minutes to go.
I think you're really seeing here drivers understanding they want moves, and they are holding back. They're being patient, and I don't think they want to. I don't think it's in their nature. This is a completely different style of racing to what we saw at St. Pete, for example, to what we saw at Adelaide. And will there be takers this time? No. So 1, 2, 3, 4. They all stay out. They all say, we'll dance for another lap. And Ethan Critchley really having to work. And I'm curious as to what he does on this lap. He does a 2:06.5 and took 3/10 out of James Boumet. Pulls back within 1 second, gets a better draft now along the straights. And Critchley's still in this race.
Certainly is. As they make their way to turn 1 again, and 34 minutes to go. There's not been many people going this lap apart from John Lloyd, so it's a little bit quieter in the pit lane this time around as Grabowski goes ahead of Jack Sedgwick. Never mind, I was wrong. It's because it's Grabowski that's going in. So I said no one's going in, and Grabowski goes in about 5 seconds later. So he's making a pit stop earlier than what he did last time. So we'll keep an eye on that one as Lipchavik, Turnerson, Vidal are in as well. So a few drivers diving in. You'd imagine the leaders here will all be in the end of this lap, heading on to next lap.
They do say that those who drive faster also save fuel better, because they take a line of least resistance better than some of the other drivers out there. And so it is pretty much a win-win game. How do I beat someone when I'm worse on fuel and I'm worse on pace? But they now run along the back stretch here towards 12, and this is where James Boumet's got to consider, do I need track position or do I not? They jam on the brakes here to this left right now with the big Texas flag there that is written down in the asphalt there on the outside. But again, nothing is doing at this moment in time. Prada just extending the corners out the way he needs to. Davidson, the shadow on the back of this podium with Ethan Critchley, trying to work himself up through to steal a march and try and get his second win of the season. It's all about how far you are willing to go in a race like this to get the result that you want. Are you going to get the extension? Are you going to get the margins? Are you going to stand on Song and Ceremony and say, this is what you've got? And in comes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. They all come in for the final stop of this race. Top 7 all in.
Of course, the last time around we saw Critchley make the move on Davidson in the pit lane. Can he do the same ahead? James Boumet, perhaps. We'll see what Critchley can do, because he seems really good in the pit lane. He made a move earlier. Let's see if he can make one again. They all come in and they'll all head out very, very quickly. I'd imagine it won't be the longest stop with 32 minutes to go.
It won't, but everyone knows that they're trying to do what they can. Ben Gregory leaves pit. So too does Howard Hassan. This is just a battle of who gets off the jacks first and who starts lighting it up. Prada's got the advantage in the sense that he can react to anything that happens. He comes down off quickly. Look at Critchley! Look at Ethan Critchley! They're going to be inside each other as they leave pit lane. This is going to be a battle of who wants to yield first between these two. On the brakes, traffic on the outside into turn 1. They leave the room. Critchley is still going to be there, and he's going to steal the march on James Boumet. Unbelievable!
That was great work there by Ethan Critchley. Was so tight between the two of them. That could have easily went very, very wrong. But Critchley has made now 3 moves in the pit stop phase. Bume's ahead of Lucas Prada, so he's dropped down to net 3rd, and Davidson's all over the back of Prada as well, so maybe he is on the edge of a podium, is the question, as they all head their way through, and some great battling to open up the final stints of the race. And Critchley has 0.8 of a second of a lead ahead of Bume, Prada and Davidson. Those 3 in 2nd, 3rd and 4th are going to be battling heavily, as there is Davidson looking for the move maybe.
Prada's going to have to leave the door ajar here, and he's going to have to let him walk through. Alexander Davidson's in a title fight, better than him, so that's the change that is going to move them about. Turnerson, your leader in Pro-Am. Livingston, your leader in Am, as far as it goes, but they are going to have to get aggressive. Ethan Critchley has beaten them twice out of the pits on fuel and has been doing a much better job of it. James Bume now knows he's in 2nd and slow off the exit of 12 and realizing he's having to defend against the one driver last season that he spent the entire season worrying about. Now Alexander Davidson has the chance this season to really turn the screw over against James.
What a race this could be here, what an ending it could be. Half an hour to go. Critchley has the lead, a decent gap now ahead of James Bume, but of course he's got Davidson behind, who's looking to try and make a move ahead of his fellow Mercedes as they head their way through the final couple of corners. Another lap will go underway. Ethan Critchley had to get those moves done, and you said earlier, didn't you, Jake, before the race even started, the pit lane is such a crucial place to make a move, and it's where Critchley got it done as Aidan Young goes into the pit lane.
Yeah, he finally departs and will get his final stop sorted. He'll only need a morsel less than everybody else. Traffic then as they enter through at turn 1. It is Jaco van der Ligt that they're going to have to get by, and it forces side by side here for Alexander Davidson. Backs off of it slightly, can be really aggressive here through turn 2 and in towards 3. Can't get there. Now the right of 4, left of 5 will follow immediately afterwards. Not much more that can be said except that as they go through the double kicker here of 6 over to 7, and a chance then that goes a begging, but critically 1.6 is the gap now for Ethan Critchley, and he's just got to manage his fuel numbers between now and the end of this race, and he's got that one home and dry. Docker, by the way, ahead of Anders Mira, and they've dropped Nikolai Perlison, who they forced to burn the fuel in that 2nd stint, so Mira still 6th, but a much better chance now of getting 5th, and not a million miles away off the back, just 4 seconds off of Prada.
Really worked out well there for Docker mainly. Of course, Mira now is looking to close in maybe on the back of Michael Docker as they head their way back down to turn 12, just getting past one of the laps cars as they head their way down that long straight. But of course, crucial moves being made there for Critchley. Of course, took a win in the first race in Adelaide a couple of rounds ago, and now could be looking to make his 2nd win, and of course it would be in a hole. His 2nd podium as Lucas Prada makes a move ahead of Davidson. I think it's more the fact Davidson trying to get back ahead.
Oh, well, the Raditis by WSR cars, I think, are looking at each other rather than everyone else. That was off of the exit by Alexander Davidson, who moved over and basically gave the wiggle as he went through. Watch the body language of the car here. He just gives a wiggle to say, look, I'm letting you go and have it, and says to Lucas Prada, if you think you're quicker, sunshine, go out there and prove it. If you're not, I'll get it back at the end.
That's a fair judgment between those two, working together, allowing Prada to try and do something here in terms of closing down on James Bume. But look at that gap to Ethan Critchley. It's come down by 7/10. It's now below a second. It was up to 1.8 at one moment. So James Bume is now really putting the pace down and burning that fuel to catch up to the back of Ethan Critchley. Jacques Seaver's in the pit lane again. So not sure what's happened there to Jacques Seaver, unless there's been some sort of car issue, or they may have miscalculated the pit stop. So they're in again, and we'll go back out on track. But up at the front, still a race to be decided. The top 4 are still in it, and Davidson, despite being there, despite being up in 3rd for a moment, has ended up 2.5 seconds off the lead again. It doesn't seem like much can go well for him here in terms of holding on to a top 3. So we'll have to wait and see what he could do with the remaining 26 minutes here, but it's looking likely that Davidson will be locked in P4, but it's just about those 3 ahead of who will be where, because that's still a battle that's yet to be decided, and one that could really come down to the final couple of laps as Bume's really putting down the pace.
Yeah, there are also other battles out there, like this one between William Guthrie and Adam Watson, this for a top 15. There's also one for 9th and 10th. between Jack Sedgwick and Dennis Grabowski, two drivers a decade ago that you would have marked down and said they are elite drivers in the likes of the Blancpain iRacing series. They were both pro stripes in that, and they are two drivers who are going to, a decade later, still be fighting each other for places.
Certainly, and that's what we love to see. A lot of drivers here will be here for a long, long time in the World GT Championship, and many of them have been already here for a very long time. Has been here many, many seasons and still here battling up at the top. And the good thing as well is we've seen lots of new blood as well enter into the World GT Championship and settle in very, very nicely. As here is William Guthrie looking to close down on the back of Adam Watson, who's only 3/10 ahead of him, but behind is David Baker, who, despite dropping back earlier on, has really got some pace now and really caught the back of these two.
Move down the inside, Critchley's turned! Critchley's turned! Oh, second straight race! He's been turned to James Boumé! That was a little too aggressive! Down to the inside, buddy! Oh my goodness! Championship leaders caught up in big drama! Here's the look of it then! He got the run, snuck to the inside. Oh, he's along at the A-pillar! That's going to be really tough for the stewards to look at.
Oh dear me, what a shame for Ethan Critchley. Up the inside went James Boumé, and such a tight move. It will be very difficult for the stewards to look into that one and decide on the result, but of course it now brings Lucas Prada right on the back of James Boumé. What a shame for Ethan Critchley, who was looking for 2 wins this season, and it seems like he's only going to get the one so far. He's still got many races to go, but what a shame there for Ethan Critchley. Drops down to P7, will be very happy, I think, if he wasn't in the lead to be P7, but he was up there earlier on, so he'll be disappointed on the grand scheme of things, as Jack Sedgwick and Dennis Grabowski having a great battle for P9.
And I think all of it is coming down to the fact of, did you take tyres or did you not? I think Prada did. I think Boumé did. I think Critchley again was going for the call of no tyres is going to get me home. And for the second straight enduro, he's been burnt on it. He was burnt at St. Pete. He's burnt here now at the Circuit of the Americas. But Lucas Prada wants to go and get himself the result here. Goes to the right-hand side, looks around the outside here at Boumé, shepherds off the corner and says, I've still got it, but Prada's got a lovely run. So again, Boumé has to defend the middle of the road here. Prada nowhere to go through the middle of the corner. It's staved off for now, but they've got gap. And they've got gap of nearly 3 seconds. Big outside line. Oh, wiggle through the middle of the corner for Lucas Prada. He's still going to have to sit.
Prada's pushing hard here. He wants that move ahead of James Boumé, and he's just got to be careful he doesn't burn too much of that fuel. We don't know how much they've got in the car, but they don't want to burn too much here with 23 minutes to go. So they head their way back into the final couple of corners, and of course, it seems to be a race of 2 now because Alexander Davidson has dropped back fully. They're 3 seconds away. But look at that gap further behind as well, though. Ev Dock is only about 2.5 seconds back from Alexander Davidson, so maybe a late fight for the podium could be on if Ev Docker can still put down that pace in the Mustang as they head back up to turn 1 with the leaders. Lucas Prada very heavy now, looking to try and make that move to go for the lead, but he goes deeper, getting to turn 1 slightly and loses a tad bit of time there on the back of James Boumé.
Andy Archer is out. He has decided to put the car in the wall and end the race for him because he's been struggling with the instant points. A real shame because he's committed an hour and 20 minutes into the race there, Nathan, and I think it's really stupid actually from him when he's 3rd, 4th in class at the time, running around to just chuck it away like that.
Yeah, I think sometimes, though, frustration gets the better of you. Sometimes maybe it's better to end it off.
Oh, Watson.
Watson, and luckily he's right at the pit lane as well. Perfect time for Watson.
Well, perfect, but you wouldn't want it any time.
True.
So, you know, you can call it great timing if you want, but Adam Watson, over the instant point cap, he's going to be down there and is set at 22 incidents, and so he will find himself now with a lot to try and navigate through. In the final stages of this race, he can go out, try and be aggressive. He drops back behind William Guthrie, and I don't think he'll even lose a place then to the likes of Fraser Smith. He'll come out ahead, so that will only cost him a tiny bit in terms of his race, but he'll know still a very, very long way left. Evdoka now 4th, Mira now 5th, and Perlison, keep an eye on him, because that 3-car group now, Perlison's got tyres. I think the cars in front of him don't.
No, it seems a lot quicker, doesn't it? That gap was about 3 seconds. It's now just down to half a second between Pedersen and those ahead. He'll be looking to get the move done ahead of Anders Mira and then close down to Michael Evdoka. Those two are fast drivers, but if they've not took tyres and Pedersen has, he's going to be way quicker than these two. And you can just see already how much grip he has through the corners. Of course, that will also help under braking in that Mercedes. So it won't be long until Nikolai Pedersen makes a move, I'd imagine, on Anders Mira. Could even see it happen down to turn 1, potentially, because also Anders Mira is stuck behind the back of Michael Evdoka. They're all trying to jump over each other here. 21 minutes to go. There's still a race to be decided for the lead, but also for P4, 5 and 6, they need to be quickly in the pit lane.
Yeah, and that's going to be a retirement for him as he pulls that over to one side. By the looks of it, he knows he's only out there racing for the win. And oh, they're all over each other. That's a great move by Anders Mira. Had to go the long way. Oh, the inside of turn 1. Got a lovely launch off the exit. Blocked it off a dream and says, Michael Evdoka, your turn to go and worry about Pedersen.
Indeed, and of course, Pedersen there was really closing in. He went alongside Evdoka, but he got a really good run and just put him off.
Oh, what a move! Down the inside, he's going to shuffle him out the way. It's covered, though. Up the hill off camber. Oh, Pedersen nearly stole a march.
Couldn't quite see it from that angle, but I just saw Mercedes up the inside. He goes to move it to turn 11. It doesn't seem like Evdoka's going to fight that back. Let's have a look at this again. They head their way through turn 8 into turn 9, and up the inside he goes, and that's a daring move, but he nearly made it work.
Yeah, got into the door of him, didn't have it, and then Michael Evdoka just gave the old tap of the brakes to say, I've got nothing for you. I'm not going to fight you like that for 20 more minutes. Go have it, go race. And Pedersen then making the move to get himself up into the top 5. Anders Mira, though, will be next on his list, and so too will Alexander Davidson, who is there at 5 seconds back now and falling desperately into the clutches of Anders Mira.
Of course, and that's going to be Gabrielsen still having a couple of issues there. Keeps blinking in and out, so hopefully it doesn't get too worse for Gabrielsen. It seems to be getting a little bit worse as the race goes on. But a key battle here is as well now, with Ethan Critchley being out of it for P10, Aidan Young and Axel Sliepajic battling for P10. They're only half a second apart here, so this could get close between these two for 10th place.
Traffic for James Boume, it's Howard Hassan, and also it will be Benjamin Gregory to try and get by up Big Red here into turn 2. He's got to get by them quickly and effectively here, otherwise Lucas Prada is going to be there. This is the worst place to catch Howard Hassan right now, going through the S's, because he doesn't have an easy way of letting off the power and letting them go. So watch out for this in case there is any sort of moment where there is trouble. He's going to have to get out of the way here through turn 6 and abandon his line. He does through 7. That's okay. Gap remains at around 0.6 of a second. Boume takes a big carving line, then to try and attack off the exit. Prada has done quite well over that section and knows that on Mercedes versus Mercedes, it's now going to be an easier time of dealing with Gregory. On the brakes they go into turn 11.
Indeed. So they head their way into the brakes, and Gregory's got a poor run through, of course. Very helpful, though, for the top two to get past him quickly, and they can continue their way down the road. And what's happened to Davidson? He's dropped back again. He's 7 seconds back now from the leaders, so I'm not sure if he's been caught up in traffic, but Alexander Davidson's about 3 or 4 seconds back from where he was. And Grabowski's got a black flag. What a shame for Dennis Grabowski.
And while that happens, Pedersen side by side with Mira going down into turn 11. Here comes the move. Mercedes on BMW. Mira holding the outside line. He's going to need to fight for grip here with whatever he's got left underneath those 4 tyres. And now on that inside track, can he hold him out? No. Pedersen gets to the inside for the all-important turn 15. And Mira, I think, is going to have to tap out and say, I can't get it. Great move by Pedersen up to 4th, and 3rd still very much on the cards. Grabowski over the limit then and hits 22 incident points.
What a shame for Denis Grabowski. As Axel Slipčević now goes up into P10, so got the move done ahead of Aidan Young down towards turn 12. He now enters the top 10 in this one and has got a decent 4.5, 5/10 gap here. So you can imagine he'll start to pull away from Young, and of course by himself into P9 here as Grabowski's got to go in to serve that black flag. And then here is Nikolai Pedersen in 4th place ahead of Anders Mira. You'd imagine they will just pull away and see if he can start to catch up to the back of Alexander Davidson. This could be a key move and Pedersen's got some pace. He's obviously took tyres, and I imagine Davidson hasn't. So this should be a nice possibility for Nikolai Pedersen to get himself into that top 3 with 16 minutes to go.
Well, this is an all-important battle with a few minutes left in this race, as Jack Sedgwick then will see himself lose out then a position then as Grabowski goes through. So a change between them as Grabowski is still yet to pit, but Prada right up to the back of James Boumet. He's got to be really choice about the way he goes and makes these moves, and probably will be looking around at everybody here hitting the instant point limit and realizing this is a tough place for track limits, and a lot of people will be a lot finer on the margin than you think. Alexander Davidson is black flagged.
Oh dear me, Alexander Davidson, of course, he was under pressure from Nikolai Pedersen, and that just shows he's pushing the car too much. He gets a black flag, and he will probably as well, I think, go back and tow to the pit lane. I think he's done.
Yeah, day done. He knows that that was everything for him, and he is out of this race. So Alexander Davidson's time then near the front, I think he'll write his championship off with that moment. Prada all over the back of James Boumet now, trying to find a way to make the magic happen for the race lead. They are on tenterhooks, trying to get what they can in on it. Remember, incident points are a resource. You only have a certain amount of pool to play with. It's like chips in a game of poker. You push all in, you might find at the rhythm you're left with nothing.
Indeed, they've got to be careful. They've got to be tactical now what they do. With 15 minutes to go, as Colin Sampson as well also gets a black flag. Incident limit points are starting to be reached now here as we have 15 minutes to go. Drivers are struggling. The top two have got to be so careful now.
They do. Trepidatious through turn 2, moving over towards the lefts and the rights of 3 and 4, dancing over this section and understanding their roles and responsibilities. Do not step out of line at any point. Make a clean pass out there and don't get into argy-bargy with each other. These two now with a 10-second gap almost over Pedersen in third. They understand what this race is, and they know that if they get themselves involved, there is a whole heap to go and look at here in terms of points and results. Prada now looking for the run off the exit, but the gap opens out to 0.4 of a second, and so it's going to be a long old haul along this back stretch to go and gain the time back. He'll get to 3/10, he might even get to 2.5, but he's not going to be close enough on this lap to make the move. But the latent pressure continues here through turn 12.
Of course, and the main thing here for Prada is he knows that he can get a good exit out of turn 11. He then can bring that gap down with the slipstream to James Boumet. He's got a good chance. If he's maybe 2.5, 3/10 back, he's going to be alongside before they hit on the brakes. So he's just got to focus on that first sector, stay as close as he possibly can to James Boumet, and then have that chance to dart down the inside denter towards turn 12. But the issue he could get, though, is if Boumet sees him coming and he knows that gap's quite small, he can then immediately pull to the inside and defend off. So Prada's got to get him at the perfect time, really. He's got to get a really good exit out to turn 12 and kind of get there before James Boumet can blink and see him.
Well, this might be a case of one big move that's all you're going to have available. How many are you going to have left in the back pocket to use on the final couple of laps, for example, on instant point, to go and get the breakaway, to find an extra 10th? It's one of those where I think they're sitting. Lucas Prada, the number 10, Adidas Racing by WSR, the Czechian driver, hoping to find himself a way to jump up the order, a way to go and get the results and say, look, I am all about this. Keep an eye on Grabowski and how long he's got left to serve his penalty before the disqualification flag comes in. You can see he's all over the back of that Falcon Sim Racing number 1. Boumet, a team change before the start of this season as he moved over from Altitude Frame Esports, Adidas Racing by WSR. Prada's been there for a number of years, and now he's trying to find that moment that puts him on the next level.
As they head their way down to turn 11, Prada this time around stays behind. He wants a better exit out to turn 11 to get a good run down to turn 12. On the corner exit, though, he has a bit of a snap slightly. He loses a bit of time, but he's still got a good 3/10 gap here as they head their way down to turn 12. I don't imagine He'll go for it this time, but give it a couple of laps. He's going to be forced to. The gap comes down to around 2.5 tenths. If this is the last lap, he's going for it here.
If this was the last lap, he'd chuck it down the inside and say, what have I got to play with? Aggressive over the curb then from James Boumé as he tries to hold off the line once more and say, what can I do? Sansom there on the outside was waiting, and Howard Hassan now with a black flag. He goes over the limit of 22. Another driver who finds himself at that difficult position. They're all starting to struggle. 11 minutes left in this race. Where is the point going to be between these two where it cracks? And now you turn around and say, can you even find it without needing to go to the well and saying there's a penalty on the horizon? This is tense stuff right now, and Boumé just holding it at an arm's length at the moment, leading this field.
Of course, Boumé is looking for his 5th win, and Lucas Prada is looking for his 1st. He's been on the podium a couple of times, but he's not quite been on that top step, and he'll want that so much here. With 7 rounds to go in the championship, it's a big race for these two. Of course, for Boumé to extend the championship, and for Prada to try and find his 1st win of the season. With 10 minutes to go, you're looking at 4 or 5 laps maximum here around Kota, and Lucas Prada is applying the pressure. But of course, they've got to be careful they don't get a black flag themselves. I don't know how far they are along the limit, but I'd imagine with the way everybody is so far, they're probably not that far away as Denis Grabowski's in and will serve that black flag.
At the 11th hour, he will come in and serve that penalty, and so he will take the drive through the pits. He'll fall behind Slijepcevic and probably Aidan Young as well, and that will drop him back to 10th place here in this one. But chase still again over to turn number 11, and Lucas Prada once more stares at the back of James Boumé, who gets a lovely launch coming out of the corner, gets that 4.5 tenths of a second once again. There will be no offering down to the inside, so Prada here in the 10 against the 1 again has to look. There's no worries about Pro-Am or Am. It's Ivan Turnison who has made a brilliant recovery to be in the lead of the Pro-Am championship at this moment, or the Pro-Am race at this moment. In Am, all day long, it's been Seaman Andre Livingston. This is the race right now in the World GT Championship.
It certainly is, and what a race to come into as well for commentary for me. For my one race this season, this is a perfect race to get involved in here. So we've got to battle that go all the way to the checkered flag here. An hour and 40-odd minutes of racing, and it's still the top two having the battle. Of course, for a majority of the race, it was Prada ahead of Boumé, and now it's the other way around. But Prada is applying the pressure now on the back of James Boumé. The gap's around 6.5 tenths here, so James is starting to put the pressure down, starting to put the pace in a little bit now on the back of Lucas Prada. You just got to hope he can keep it consistent now until the end.
Well, James Boumé is driving the way he's always done, with pure, absolute joy, and he is doing a wonderful job at keeping the margin out and extending it where he needs to. He's attacking the corners a little bit more here than Lucas Prada is, and I wonder whether he'll get an understanding of that as he works on through here and says, look, I'm being as aggressive as I possibly can be with 8 minutes to go, and these are the money laps right now where everything is going to stand on song. That's Howard Hassan with a big spin. That's going to put him into trouble as well. Purlison 3rd, Mira 4th, and actually here, if any of those drivers behind Prada and Purlison, if either of the Prada on cue, black flag, he hits over 22, and that puts him into penalty purgatory, and Anders Mira now is going to get a podium.
That gifts James Boumé the win. The pressure he had is gone, and of course Mira jumps up into the top 3. Nikolai Purlison and Anders Mira, I think 30 minutes ago, would never have imagined that they'd be on the podium, and the way it's going, they will be. Lucas Prada over the incident points with only 7 minutes to go. He gets the black flag, and he'll make his way back to the pit lane soon, but of course it's himself and Alexander Davidson, P2 and P3 with the black flags. It starts to ask the question, how far is James Boumé away from getting himself a black flag? He's just got to be careful now to the end. Nobody's not got any pressure from Lucas Prada behind.
He'll kick himself on it, and he will know and understand from the drivers around. It will make it a Falcon Sim Racing 1-2, where it looked like, for all the world, Adidas Racing by WSR were going to be the best team here today. Oh, Lucas, oh, you've only got yourself to kick and blame because he hasn't been involved in incidents. He's just been running a little bit too wide, and I think he's going to keep the pressure on here, use the full 4 laps of allotment here to force James Boumé into some form of mistake.
That's what he needs to do. At some point, if he can catch up, he wants to make a send. He needs to force Boumé into making some sort of mistake, running off the road somewhere, and that's what he's got to do here as Lucas Prada, because he knows that race when he's over. But he'd rather take someone down with him, I'm sure of that. With 6 minutes to go, he's going to have to pit soon, and he's got a half a second gap now to James Boumé. But of course, that'll be so good for Anders Mira. But then again, you know, Mark Lev-Docker will be thinking, well, what if all went well for him in the start of that third stint, he would have been ahead of Mira and ahead of Pedersen and would have probably been P2. So you've always got to keep your options open with, you know, still half an hour to go. We'd all imagined that Pedersen, Mira and Vidoka would have been nowhere near the podium. 2 of them are now on it.
Well, keep an eye on Leander Gabrielsen as well. He's third in the championship in his Lamborghini Huracan. Alexander Davidson's not scoring anything, but Gabrielsen here is only a handful of seconds now behind Michael Lev-Docker. He could steal a top 5.
And that'd be great for him, wouldn't it? It'd be good for his championship. He wouldn't gain much on Anders Mira. He'd lose a little bit, but he'd gain a lot on Davidson and Young and Prada. So that'd be perfect for him if he can try and make that move ahead of Michael Lev-Docker. That gap just over a second here. So 5 minutes to go. It's a big ask for Leander Gabrielsen, but still all is possible as we have 5 minutes to go, not long left. And Lucas Prada, of course, we thought Davidson was, you know, the only one in the top 3 that'd do it. But Prada's done it as well, got himself a black flag, and the question is, though, does he retire or does he just go into the pits and serve it?
Well, I think he'll have to serve it, so he has 4 laps to serve it. They're sitting down, they're doing about 2 minutes 6 lap times here, and so they'll be crossing the line and saying, right, what do we have left in this race? And the answer will be about just under 4.5 minutes. So they'll have 3 laps to go. In theory, he could make it to the end of the race with the penalty, because this is his 2nd lap if there is 2 to go. No, he'll have to serve it on the final lap then as he goes by, and he'd much prefer to serve it than not serve it, because if he'd get to the end of the race and not have that penalty served, it's a 40-second time penalty.
Drops him down to P8. Yeah, P8, P9, which is not what he wants. So he's going to have to go in shortly, whether it's this lap or next lap, we'll wait and see. But what a shame for Lucas Prada, has been all over the back of James Boumé. It just shows how difficult this track is. As Gabrielsen makes a move into P5.
Oh, in the final corner, he has absolutely stolen Michael Lev-Docker's lunch money.
Great move. I didn't see the move. We'll get a replay shortly. But Leander Gabrielsen with, well, we said 2 minutes ago, oh, he's got a 1.5 seconds to gain. He might not do it. Never mind, he's done it even quicker. Within a lap, he's got the move done. It is now already pulled away from Michael Lev-Docker. And let's have a look at this move. In towards 19 we go. He's got a really good run through there. I'd imagine he just sends it to the inside at turn 20.
Look at this, straight down the inside. Lev-Docker just has to give him the room, gives him an acre basically to work through. I'm sure you could have a cattle ranch out here as wide as the gap that has been left down the inside there. But Gabrielsen knows he's allowed this opportunity to attack to get to that 5th place, and he is going to be beaming with that at the moment. So that's how it sets itself with a pass, as those fight for the 5th place then puts it into perspective. Cedric's only 5 seconds off the back of Lev-Docker, so that could be another one for Jack to go and steal too late, as we're down under 3 minutes left in this one, and everybody just holding on and saying, can we find the end of a race like this, where I think it's going to be a huge understanding of where everybody is managing, and everybody has just had to hold themselves so steady, so calm on what has been a tense hour and 45.
It's been a long race. It's been a hard race as well, because you've got the track limits that you got to as, oh, Prada's made the move.
No, Prada's in the pits. Yeah, this will be for the penalty, and so you often get it here that it's quicker to take the track on the inside to get yourself down into the pits, but Lucas Prada then will finally have to yield it. But critically, where is Pedersen? By comparison, is he close to him? Yes is going to be the answer, but he's going to be behind by about a second. Second is not off the table yet for Lucas Prada.
Going to be a lot of work to get the move, though, because Pedersen's quicker. and I'd imagine he took tyres on Prada, didn't earlier on, so P2 could be on here for Nikolai Pedersen quite easily. I thought Mirror would be close enough, but no, the pit stop was just about enough there for Prada to keep a good 6 second gap ahead of Anders Mirror as they head their way through the S's. Only a couple of laps left here. You'd imagine maybe one more after this one for James Boumé to claim the win and win by 11 seconds, which half an hour ago, I mean, I think the top 4 were separated by about 10. Never mind, it's just the top 2 that are separated by such a big gap. And James Boumé will be so happy to have the P1 here. And of course, Prada, I think despite getting the black flag, P3 is still a decent position, I suppose, when you look on the grand scheme of things.
I think it's going to be a great result for him, P3 still, but he's only 1.1 seconds back. He'll have one final lap after this one to get there, but he is going to have to go like the clappers here to force Nikolai Pedersen into any form of drama or mistake or something late on here in this one. So there's still a lot to uncover in the final laps of this, and this has been a tough race for so many to put themselves on and say, right, I am going to be lights out in terms of the way this goes. This has been a hard-fought race. This is where everyone, I think, earns it out of it. We've seen the likes of full reverse grids at the Nordschleife. We have seen the likes of full reverse at Adelaide. We have seen this be the toughest season possible for many and any way to go and take a championship like this one. Last lap starting though, here for James Boumé. He crosses with 14 seconds remaining on the clock, which means you're gonna have to go and do yet another revolution of this all-important circuit. Gap is down to 0.7 of a second now between Prada and Pedersen, and Pedersen being reeled in late on. Both drivers took tyres. Prada's got nothing to lose. Maybe Pedersen does for the 1-2 for Falcon Sim Racing. Boumé just angling easily through the corners. Look at Prada now through this SS. 0.6 of a second is the margin. If he gets within 4, he's got a sniff of it here, and Prada will know that second's not done. Half a second is now the margin here. If Docker will lose out the place through turn 1 to Jack Sedgwick, who gets the run. If Docker trying to get back at him through turn 2, nothing for you. See you later, says Jungle Jack, as he now moves on by. But got to go back. That gap's still 0.6. Pedersen can't afford a missed braking zone or anything out there as they head to the prime place to go and find overtaking central. It is still 0.6, 0.5 of a second. Prada could go from a long way back if he should so dare to get this second position, and Pedersen is weaving on the straight, trying to break some toe. I think he's going to be happy. He's got enough here. Still 3 car lengths as they hit the brake mark in towards the left here for the final time in Texas. But at the moment, it's going to be a case of a Lone Star State Trooper out there in front, moving through with 3 corners left to go. He will stand and smile and say he has held back WSR, who want to throw this race today in the River Styx. Pedersen, I think, has got it covered now. Final corner for James Boumé, because he is the Austin Ace as he gets through at the Andretti. James Boumé, high five! It's her 5th win of the season.
What a win for James Boumé. You can see second and third make their way through. Now it's Nikolai Pedersen who takes P2, and only a couple of tenths back. Lucas Prada, after the black flag, will still cross the line in P3. And what a race for those two as well, especially Nikolai Pedersen, who, with around an hour to go, was P7. In the end, he's P2, and that just shows consistency, and not getting involved in incidents really rewards you. As now Aidan Young and Dennis Grabowski is that Balsall over here.
Well, there is one final lunge you can do. It's turn 20. You can have it, but it looks a bit too far back for that Aston Martin. So Aidan Young, I think, is going to survive here today with a 9th place finish. I think he'll take that and gather the points as he will look over on the horizon, and that's going to be a big scrap late then as they go through. There is your Pro-Am winner. What a drive by Ivan Turnison after being backwards on the opening lap to 11th and getting it done. Tommy Vidal is out of fuel over the line and will ultimately lose out in his clash going through. There's Janis Scholtane, but there is a driver in front of him in the championship, and it is Seaman Andre Livingston who is going to take the AM victory here today. And actually give a big amount of credit here for Seaman Andre Livingston right now, Nathan. Only driver over the line on a 0x incident race.
I mean, that takes something. An hour and 40 minutes, and he's not had 1x at all. That's something, especially with what we saw with the AMs earlier on in the first couple of minutes of the race. It was really, really dicey down at the back. So, really great drive there for Seaman Andre Livingston to come away with no penalty points at all, or no incident points at all in that one. But yeah, I think he'll be quite happy as well with the win there. It puts him on his third this season, as this is Janis Scholtane crossing the line. 21st overall, we'll be very happy with that. P2 for him.
Yeah, good job for the AM Championship leader as he finishes ahead of Paddy Falconer, for example, and they know that that's the last cars over the line, so we can run you through results in terms of where everybody has stacked themselves up today here from a testy circuit of the Americas. James Boumet, 11.8, does not tell the story of the race that he has had. He has had to work hard for it, and my, what a great result he has turned away with. Nikolai Perluson will finish second. He was on 20 incident points, by the way, as he crossed the line, with Lucas Prada third and Anders Mira finishing off in fourth position. He was on 19 incident points out there over the course of the race. Then you got Leander Gabrielsen keeping his championship hopes alive in fifth. Jack Sedgwick will finish sixth, with Michael Evdoka seventh. Axel Slijepcevic will be in eighth, with Aidan Young ninth, and Dennis Grabowski having to lose out there on that ninth with a top 10 and a penalty he has served over the course of that race. Pro-Am winner is Ivan Turnison for RAA Sim Sport 2. They get 2 victories because they get the AM Championship, with Seaman Andre Livingston in 18th, as David Baker's 12th and William Guthrie, good damage limitation there, in 13th. Tommy Vidal out of fuel over the line is 14th, with Adam Watson and Fraser Smith 15th and 16th. Then you've got Aidan Carter and Seaman Andre Livingston, with Arthur Thurtle 19th and Phil Samways rounding out your top 20. Janis Scholtane, Paddy Falconer and Ben Cullen make the last cars on the lead lap, as the Bens then are together. Benjamin Gregory there 24th, with John Lloyd, Jacco von der Ligt, Jacques Eva and Howard Hassan all a lap down. It's 7 and the first retirement for Colin Sansom. Alexander Davidson, day done on penalties. Ethan Critchley taken out of the race lead with James Boumet. There will be words to be spoken between those two for the second straight meeting. Andrew Archer, Tristan Engelstad, Ben Altria, Michael Gray and Taylor Lane all out, and Josh Boot a non-starter here today on what was a truly massive run out there overall. So they set themselves up ready. They all look, I think we can get all 3 of these in at exactly the same time. Ivan Turnison, Anders Mira and Seaman Andre Livingston. Well, Ivan, I'm going to go to you first, because backwards on lap 1 and suddenly turning around at the end of the race and realising, hang on a minute, I'm 11th and I win my category.
Yeah. Unexpected.
Well, an unexpected result, but one for you where you've got to be very happy at the fact that, you know, you've had the pace. You qualified 7th, and it's clear that the whole team's got pace out there.
Yeah, we've been practicing all week, trying to find a setup for this thing, this track, because like there is no setup out there from where we get our setups. So my setup was actually made by myself by ChatGPT. So I'm happy.
Well, you get that here, ladies and gentlemen. You're all out of a job because ChatGPT has stolen all of your setup run out there. Seaman Andre, what a run from you as well. I'd just like to note you are the only driver in that field who finished without an instant point. What a stellar drive to take the AM category win today.
It's all about consistency and keeping it clean. Oh, I don't know. This race, I was just mentally prepared for it being hard. Trying to be careful, and by luck I also had pace, and the funny thing was every time I started fuel saving and driving more cautious, my lap times went down. So then I figured out, oh, I just need to do this the whole race. So that's why I don't have any inks. I was just like, oh, why push? I go off the track and get an ink and I'm slower. So I was just cruise control, whole race.
Well, that cruising is going to put you back up to second then in the AM Championship. It's a long way to get to Janus Schultain, but a result like that surely going to give you a lot of confidence moving into the next round.
Yeah, for sure. I will just keep on pushing, and as you see, our team is starting to work good together, and we're helping each other and getting more pace, so it's good to be on the raw sim sport these days.
Right, let's go over to Pro, where Anders Mira just shy of a podium in 4th position. Anders, story of your championship really has been unable to find the wins, but the consistency level absolutely top-notch. And with everyone running into troubles around you, a case of trying to keep a level head on cool shoulders.
Yeah, for sure. P4 is nothing to write home about, but still it feels like a win because on this track the car was so off-pace. I've been driving the Ford, driving the Lambo, and both of them were like between 3 and 5 tenths faster for me. So to even finish, I wasn't expecting P10, top 10 to be honest. So even though it's not even a podium, it really feels like a win today. So I'll take that.
And how do you look to gather the momentum for RAA now, seeing that you've got big results, not just you, but Leander as well behind you in 5th place, as you head next week over to Sonoma for the doubleheader there?
Yeah, we have to push for the team championship. Obviously, I'm not sure how the tracks are gonna work in my favor, at least. I thought this track would be a good track, and it ended up to be the worst track this season for the car, so it's hard to know, but we just have to work like we have done this week, practice and maximize what we can with what we have, and just try to keep the consistency throughout the rest of the season.
Well, we wish you all the best of luck then for racing action next time out. Big results. A first in AM for Seaman Andre Livingston. A first in Pro-Am for Ivan Turnison. A 4th place for Anders Mira. As Nathan Richards has wandered down the paddock, he's with the 427 machine of that Corvette and Aidan Young.
Indeed. Aidan, welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Perfecto. So, a crazy race here in COTA today. I mean, heading into it, was you expecting P9? I mean, especially after all that happened in that one. You and many others are kind of up and down the grid the whole race, and in the end, you end up in P9. What was your thoughts heading into that?
Well, lap 1, I definitely wasn't too happy when I got spun, but, you know, right after it happened, I just told myself to kind of set it and forget it, focus on the rest of the race, so I knew I was already a little bit on the back foot, so I was like, okay, let me push to get a few positions, and then once I've got a couple and I'm getting closer back to that top 15, then I'll start to do a little bit of fuel saving and try and go an extra lap, see if I can't jump a few people in the pits. And, you know, it worked out. Instead of going 17, I somehow managed to go 18 laps, which is 2 laps more than everybody else. First time I've ever done that, so I'm pretty proud of myself. And then the second stint as well, I went another 2 laps than everyone, and because of that, I mean, I wasn't able to take tires because I was able to take like only 44 liters of fuel when some of my teammates, they took like 51, 52 or 55 liters even. So I took basically 10 to 11 liters less.
Of course, and in the end it worked out. You got P9. Of course, it was late racing between yourself and Denis Grabowski. Of course, when you got a couple of laps left to go, you got cars right ahead and right behind. I mean, what's kind of the process of heading into those final laps, knowing that there's a car you still got to battle with for quite a decent position? I mean, was the pressure on between you and Denis?
Yeah, I knew he had better tires. I could tell just by the way he could really attack the corners. He definitely had better grip than me, and I think that just comes down to the fact that, you know, I wasn't able to take tires. He probably was in his pit stop. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, though, I managed to save my tires better than what I thought I was going to be able to. I think actually when I ended the race, I had probably about 60 to 55-ish% on my tires left. So it was pretty good tire management, considering just how hot the track temp was.
Of course, the next time out, you know, one of our technical rounds, we head to Sonoma. What's your thoughts and the game plan heading into that race?
I used to not quite enjoy Sonoma with the GT3 car, but after winning there a few times in a GT3, I kind of enjoy it. But, you know, as racers say, it's the tracks you win at, that's the tracks that are your favorites. So I'll try and have a little fun with it. I don't know how to be in the Corvette, because last time I drove Sonoma in a GT3 car, it was in the BMW, and seems to be the BMW feels pretty nice around there. BMW has some pretty good suspension, which for that track seems to make it work just a bit better than some other cars. Of course, the AMG is good there as well. So we'll see. I'll try and get myself a good setup, get me some practice in, and you know, hopefully we can bring another good result to the table, and I can keep myself in this top 5 in the championship.
Indeed. Well, Aidan, congratulations on the top 9. Great to see you back on track again, and hopefully we'll see you up there once more as we head to Sonoma next week. So thanks again for popping in for a chat, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Yep. See you guys next week. Thank you.
Well, here's where we are. In 7 days, we will be at the Sonoma Raceway in Finion, Sears Point, no matter what you want to call it. This is a track that has major elevation change, major need to hold yourself through the long sweeping corners, and it's one of those tracks that you don't often see run anymore, Nathan. It's one of the older tracks on iRacing, but my, is it a thrill to go and race at.
It's one of those tracks where if you can get it right and you can master it, you're flying. But it's one of those, it takes so much time to get into the flow, especially if you're in one of the heavier GT3 cars. You've got to get the balance right, because it's constantly left, right, up, down, up, down. It is a difficult track to get right. So if you've got the right setup, you can drive the track and you're flying, it's a great weekend. If not, though, it's going to be a very, very long couple of races.
Well, the only place you can catch that is with us here on RaceSpotTV, and thank you very much for making this Monday night a part of your day. A massive, massive day here from Hugo Louise, from Nathan Richards, myself, Jake Sperry. A day where everybody had to be on edge. This one was a very nervy moment as they all looked at the counter. How many incidents are we going to be out there looking forward? They were all keeping out on it, and ultimately in the river Styx, it would be for Adidas Racing by WSR. They knew that they found themselves in penalty purgatory, and walking out, strolling out of it was an absolute demon drive by one Mr. James Boumet. There's a reason why he's the reigning champion, and he is walking right now over to California, understanding better than anybody else he is head and shoulders above this field, and he can win this championship and win races any way he likes.